Welcome, Lund loyalists, YouTubers watching on John Lund Unleashed and the Bay Area Sports Collective, those watching on X and Instagram and listening on Apple and Spotify. It's John Lund Unleashed and JohnLundUnleashed.com. Brought to you by Riopel Cosmetic Surgery and Laser Center. Right now featuring amazing stem cell technology. For all your pain and for the guys, check out the latest in low T and testosterone therapy to make you feel like yourself again. Riopel Cosmetic Surgery and Laser Center at riopelcosmetic.com. Now, all juiced up and ready to go. Here's Johnny.
Wait a minute. That's not right. That's better. Thanks for joining us. Happy Thursday, downhill side of your week. I hope you are outstanding, and thank you for taking the time for episode 87. If you are new, thank you so much. We always have a ton to get after. It is a Thursday episode 87, and here's what we'll do. I'll read the chalkboard to you if you're new around here. That's what we do. We stick by the chalkboard best we can. We take freeway exits, but we get back on. Go to the bathroom, get some McDonald's, whatever the case may be. Then we get back on the road. That's why the random thing is near at the bottom. We'll take roll call. Lots of people in the room already, as I can see. That is awesome. We are live on YouTube. You are looking live. YouTube, John Lund Unleashed. Please make sure you slam that subscribe button, the like, which the algorithm likes so much. Make sure you have your alerts on because I'm on all the time. I was on Tommy's show yesterday. I was on with Mac and Creative Tony. That was a lot of fun last night as part of the Bay Area Sports Collective, which please make sure on the YouTube page at Bay Area Sports Collective you are subscribed there, because Tom's got an interview that he's going to be running with Steve Young. I'll show you Steve's backyard here in a second. Unbelievable. We're on Twitch. We're on X at John Lund Radio. We're on Instagram at John Lund Radio as well, and Facebook, my personal Facebook page, which you can join. Also, please go over to Facebook and hit up John Lund Unleashed, because that's another way that you can check out the show. Plus, JohnLundUnleashed.com. I owe you a column, which I will write today. This one, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if I'm going to go Warriors on this one with Kuminga's return. Mac Jones is very, very interesting. I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole on the Mac Jones thing today, which we will discuss. So we have an absolute ton to get to. Plus, there's some weird stuff, and I guess I'll use that in the caboose today, that whole Mark Gastineau thing. Steph Curry spoke with some old friends of mine, so I'll play that for you as well. And so a ton to get to. It is episode 87. As I just said, JK is back. How's he going to fit? We're going down the chalkboard. Wrong side. Not as much on the bracket, but we'll tell you about that. Curry talks. Mac attack. This is really interesting. Is it just he's a backup quarterback a la Sam Darnold that is trying to resurrect himself, or is this kind of Brock leverage? Because you remember, Kyle liked Mac Jones. A lot of speculation that he was going to be the pick at number 3 instead of Trey Lance in 2021. And I have, like I said, I went down a rabbit hole for the 2021 draft, which I think is going to be fun for you. The Aaron Rodgers stuff, just stop. Like, no one cares. I mean, I could be wrong, and I've told you this a million times. I worked for ESPN for over 10 years, and they would give us oodles and oodles, like Gone with the Wind every morning of, this is why you should talk about what you're talking about. And if you're not talking about it, we're going to have a conversation, and you think you're done talking about this and you're not. And it was back in those days, it was more Brett Favre. These days, it's Rodgers and Dak and the Cowboys and LeBron. And it's just this short cycle that you're constantly hearing on either Fox or ESPN. It's all they talk about. But as far as Aaron Rodgers is concerned, I don't care. Like, he's not very good anymore, and he's not in New York anymore, so you don't have to shove it down our throat. I mean, the fact that he might be in Cleveland or Pittsburgh or Minnesota, like, no one cares. He's an ass. And so maybe by me saying that, I'm falling right into the trap, but I don't know. We'll get into that. What does spring mean? The Giants are having a great spring, both from a standings and a lot of people statistically, and we always talk about the same guys like Luis Matos. So what does it mean? I'll tell you. Tolbert and Steve, as I told you, random stuff throughout the show, as always, and the Sweet Clean family-friendly caboose pistol, which I have a video of that I will play today. So we are packed, as we always are. Lots of good stuff to talk about, per usual. Yes, I did get it up. Well, that was weird. We were up early yesterday, so Franco checked in at like 10 o'clock last night, which is very cool. But hello, John Holmes. Hello, Skeels. Baba Booey is here. Jake is here. Good morning to Enrique, Hurleybird, Lindbergh. Jeff is always great. That was a 7:35 check-in right there. Bucko Sports, it is tremendous to talk to you today. We won't have nearly as many numbers, by the way. If you were new yesterday and you're like, man, Lund does a lot of numbers. I'm new around here. Now, we don't normally do that. I just had to explain the whole situation, what's going on with the 49ers. Rockin' New Era 84 is here. We figured something out. I don't know why, but we were going behind the scenes with my team a couple of days ago, and I saw your name up there, and I'm like, what is going on, man? Why is his name right there? Get that off there. So anyway, that was cool. It was very, very cool. I love the word savages. You know that, so I'm gonna say it every single time. Good morning, Lund Savages. I like that name. That is very cool. Vernon is here this morning. Who else do we have? If I missed you, I apologize. Joy, good morning. AJ, good morning. What else do we got? Jesus, good morning to you. Sports Girl for Life, morning all. Absolutely, morning all. I hope everyone's having a great day. I'm sick of the rain, but it's okay. We'll get over it. We'll be in a better mood because of it. Anyway, good morning to everybody, especially those in the room that I just mentioned on YouTube. Again, John Lund Unleashed on YouTube. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and make sure those are alerts on. Also at Bay Area Sports Collective. X, good morning. Instagram, good morning. Twitch, good morning. Facebook, good morning. And JohnLundUnleashed.com. All right, let us get to everything before I get out to some questions, comments, and thoughts. Where do we start? Oh, we got to start with Riopel. I am going to see Dr. Riopel, by the way, today. Riopel Cosmetic Surgery and Laser Center. That is the fine sponsor of the program. As I always tell you, all you got to do is click on that QR code right there. I am doing testosterone treatments because they did the blood work. This is all up and on the legal. And I had low T. So that means I can be irritable, although you never see that side of me. I'm always very good and cheery at 8 o'clock or so in the morning, Pacific time. Irritable, tired, tough to lose weight, all those kind of things, lethargic, brain fog. Those are the signs of low T and low testosterone. And with Dr. Riopel, it's awesome because I go in there. It's every about 4 months. I don't have to go in there every single week and take a shot or anything. It's a quick, easy procedure. And I feel like myself again. And I'm not lying about it. I have done low T procedures for a long time now, for a number of years, but this is the best way that I found it to be. There's some that it's almost like a gym membership where you have to pay every month, or some where you have to go in every single week. And it's like, I just got sick of that. And then I was in there for another thing, and Dr. Riopel said, we do, because I was talking to him about it. And he goes, we do those testosterone treatments. And this is how we do it. And it's easy. And this is how much it costs. I go, first of all, it's about half of what I was paying before. I was going in weekly, and it's an awesome situation. So I'm doing the testosterone therapy with Dr. Riopel, and my wife is doing stem cell. And I'm sure you've heard about stem cell. It's absolutely incredible. In fact, I just walked into my house right before the show started, and she was in there just laying in bed. And normally she'd have ice packs on in the morning, shoulder, elbow, things like that. And she doesn't have to do any of that anymore because of the stem cell. As I told you, it's been about a month. So if you've got pain somewhere in your body, stem cell could and probably is the answer, and nobody does it better than Dr. Riopel. So make sure you check that out. Hit that code right there. It'll take you straight to the website. And not only do they do those procedures I just told you about, anything you would expect out of a cosmetic surgeon and laser center at Riopel, they do all those different procedures. So all you got to do is click on that QR code, Riopel Cosmetic Surgery and Laser Center, and check them out and make your appointment today. So thanks to them for being a fine sponsor of the program. All right, let's get to a lot of things today. First and foremost, let me do this. And I know it's at the end of the chalkboard there where it says Tolbert and Steve. Let me just show you Steve's backyard. That is incredible. And so Tolbert is going to drop that today on the Bay Area Sports Collective at some point this morning. And it's about an hour interview. And we played this, if you're a regular watcher or listener, if you're listening on the podcast, Apple, Spotify, wherever you get your favorite podcast. If you're a regular listener or viewer of the program, about a month ago. Has it been a month? Maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, because I guess free agency just started heavy petting started on Monday, but we speculated late last week. I think this was last Friday, actually, that Steve went on the Rich Eisen show and said basically what was going to happen, what has happened was going to happen. That's what Steve said, and he's pretty dialed into everything. So what is Steve's reaction now that all this stuff has gone down? Tolbert taped that interview, I think, the day before yesterday, and so they're going to play that today on the Bay Area Sports Collective. So that's another reason why. Make sure you subscribe and have your alerts on, because I'm not sure when they're going to drop that thing. But it's about an hour conversation from Steve's backyard on what's going on with the Niners. Check that out, man. It's like they're in the jungles or something like that. But that's a cool backyard. But anyway, there's Tommy and Steve from Steve's backyard a couple of days ago, and they're going to drop that on Bay Area Sports Collective today. If you're not familiar with Bay Area Sports Collective, there's the piece they did a couple of weeks ago Three well-known Bay Area sports broadcasters, blah, blah, blah. Me and Tommy and Polly Mack, along with creative Tony and the whole crew there at Bay Area Sports Collective. So that's what we've got going on. And if you are on the YouTube page and like, what is it? That's what it looks like right there. That's what the logo is. And that's the logo I have in the corner, just so that you know. So there's the three shows that we've got going so far. So just so you know. All right, let's get into the 49ers. And this is interesting. And we led with them for a number of days. We will do a lot of Warriors today, just because with Kuminga coming back, I'll show you the playoff picture. I'll show you the bracket. We're coming down the stretch. Steph Curry had something interesting to say on a local radio station yesterday that won't play for you and react to. So there's a lot of Warriors today, and we're not going to go over as many numbers because a lot of people after the show yesterday were like, dude, I dig what you did, and I like that you explained it, and now we understand and what the numbers are and the dead cap and all the different things, but never do that again. Ever, ever, ever. I was like, yeah, I get it. Eric Branch wrote in the Chronicle today, what are you doing? What are the 49ers doing? And I think it's pretty obvious. Look at how haggard he is, by the way. He's aging worse than the president. I feel bad for Kyle. But what are the 49ers doing? And I think I've struggled over the last couple of days to find the term for it, because the 49ers, as I've told you, they're not rebuilding because John Lynch would ask out of his contract and he'd be a TV broadcaster. They're not rebuilding because Kyle Shanahan would say to the 49ers, I want to win. I've been on the verge of winning. I don't want to rebuild. Why don't you get in a coach here that's going to do a rebuild, and I'll go out and I'll try to find a team that's on the cusp that I can help push over the edge, like Andy Reid did for a number of years with Kansas City. I just don't think those guys would be down with a rebuild. So I'm not going to call it a rebuild. I don't really know what the difference is between a rebuild and a retool. I'm too lazy to look it up on Webster's, but a retool, what it is it's a financial reset. Now, that's not a rebuild. It's a totally different thing, because offensively, they're going to be fine. I'm not going to miss Aaron Banks, nor are you. They're not going to miss Jalen Moore, nor are you, nor is Brock Purdy. So offensively, they've got the skill position players now. They have to be healthy, like Ayuk and CMC and all those kind of things. Yeah, but if we assume for a second, ask you, me, I understand. But if we assume for a second that the offensive skill position players are healthy, they'll score points, especially against this bad schedule. The offensive line, I really believe this is going to happen. Now, they're not going to lock into a position because that got them hurt in the Javon Kinlaw situation. But if I had to guess right very now, I think one of the top tackles is going to fall to them at 11. They're going to take that tackle. They're going to put him on the right side. Eventually, they're going to put him on the left side when Trent goes. And then Colt McKivitz is going to be the left guard. And that, for the time being, solves the offensive line. Because if you look at a first-round pick on the right side, Trent on the left side, Pooney as your right guard, McKivitz, a lot of people within the 49ers think he's going to be a better guard than he is a tackle. He's just got that nasty mentality. And I don't love Brendel. Maybe there's somebody that's going to get released or something that can be a better pass blocker, because Brendel was one of the worst pass blocking centers in the league. And we know that because he was on his butt a lot and there was middle pressure a ton. So I'd like him to be replaced. But if 4 of those 5 are intact the way that I described it, I think the offensive line's fine. Skill position players are back. They're going to score points. Defensively is where the main issue is. There's no question about it. There's no way around it. Of all the things, and I don't mean to tread back over this, but Dre Greenlaw was a big loss. In past years, they would have re-signed him, but they said that the buck stops here and they're going to reset this whole thing. I showed you yesterday, and I'll just do it really quickly if you're new. It won't be long, I promise, because I said I wouldn't do this. But just really, really fast, the dead money is right there, and that there's still a few guys. So they're up to about $90 million on dead cap, but that's why they're doing a financial reset. And I went through all these guys that they've already replaced. Like Debo's been replaced by Pearsall. Armstead's long ago. Ward's replaced by Green. Floyd's, I don't know who they're going to replace him for, but he wasn't very good. Juszczyk, they've already got Luke Farrell. Campbell, please. They don't have a replacement for Greenlaw, Yadam, whatever. Feliciano, whatever. Latu, yeah, sure. Gray 2 years ago. So, I mean, of the guys that they're losing, they've already got a lot of replacements here. So I'm not going to go back over that ground. I just wanted to show it really quickly. Now, this is the updated wins and losses, or guys coming and going, however you want to do it. So Farrell, like I said, is going to be in for Juszczyk. Demarcus Robinson, I don't mind that signing. He's going to be a short-term replacement for Brandon Ayuk. Then he's probably going to be the 4th wide receiver. Mac Jones we'll get into in a second. Trey Brown's been hurt a lot in Seattle. Richard Grant, special teams. Luke Gifford, special teams. Pinnock, which we'll get into in a second. I think hopefully more special teams. Taylor, whatever. Givens, depth, but he hasn't been very good, and he's undersized. Robinson, I don't believe that he's going to be able to take Greenlaw's place, but that's what some people are saying. Barch might be an option at left guard. Debo, we knew this, and that's why they took Pearsall in the first round. Juszczyk already mentioned. Hargrave is a disaster because it's $8 million this year and $17 on the cap next year. Malik Collins has already signed with the Browns. Whatever, he wasn't very good. And Leonard Floyd had 8.5 sacks, which gave you the illusion that he was good, but actually in the other 600 snaps, he was horrendous. So they need defense. That's what it comes down to. Is I think that in the first round, if one of the tackles, like like Will Campbell, the kid out of LSU, she has short arms, whatever. One of those guys slips, the kid from Missouri, whatever. I think that they would go and do that, shore up the offensive line, and then the rest of the entire draft, for the most part, is going to be about defense because they don't have anybody. So that's essentially what's going on as far as that goes. So that's where we are. All right. In terms of now, let me just throw this up here. Now, I know you want to talk Mac Jones. All right. So this is the thing about Mac Jones to me that's really, really, really interesting. And when it first happened, and by the way, we talked about this the other day because I was on with Larry Krueger Sunday night, I guess it was, and he was asking me about Justin Fields, and I was like, Justin Fields doesn't fit the 49ers in any way, shape, or form. He's a one read and run quarterback. He's going to read the initial read when and if that's covered, and that's what started to happen to Kaepernick is Kaepernick couldn't get through progressions. And so Kaepernick would read the first read. The defense was smart enough. They'd cover that first read. He a lot of times couldn't even get to the second read, and he'd just take off. Well, that's Justin Fields. Everybody thinks Justin Fields is great. Great. He can run all over. But in the NFL, you have to win from the pocket at some point in the process, and Justin Fields can't. So there was no way they were bringing in Justin Fields. So let me just pop this up really quick. So, of course, this is the 2021 NFL Draft. Trevor Lawrence, I thought was going to be better, faster. Maybe he's going to bounce back, but he just hasn't been as good as I thought after starting 4 years at Clemson. Zach Wilson went to BYU his senior year. They weren't in a conference, and they didn't play anybody. And he had a senior offensive line so he could run around and play backyard football. That's what he did. He had one good year at BYU and it got him drafted. He's been a bomb. Trey Lance, we know. We don't have to go over that again. But by the way, look at the first 12 picks of this draft, 13, 14 picks of this draft. Pitts, I think, could be a lot better. But look at Chase, Waddle, Penny Sewell, J.C. Horn just got a big extension. Surtain was Defensive Player of the Year. Devontae Smith, Micah Parsons, Rashawn Slater, Vera Tucker's a nice guard with the Jets. I mean, there's a lot of good picks. And what that tells you is don't reach for a quarterback. Like Trey Lance and Zach Wilson, those guys, the best player in the draft is sitting at number 12, Micah Parsons. So that gives you hope that if you look at number 11 for the 49ers, that hopefully quarterbacks get pushed back up. So Cam Ward, I think, is going to go 1. Sanders will go before the Niners. And you got to hope that Jackson Dart, the kid out of Ole Miss, that there's rumors about that he could go in the top 10 picks, that he gets pushed up as well, because then that pushes a really good player down. And that's what happened in that draft. So anyway, we know about 1, 2, and 3. Then you get to Fields at 11. And like I said, he's a great athlete. I mean, if you look at the rushing stats, look at the rushing stats, 2,509 yards and 19 touchdowns. Like, the guy's a great runner, not a great passer, doesn't read a defense, doesn't go through progressions. I mean, he's 45 touchdowns, 31 interceptions. I mean, he's just not very good. And everybody thinks because he's an athlete, he is. But whatever. Okay, so they were never going to bring in Justin Fields. He didn't fit Kyle at all. But you and I talked about this, and I talked about this on Krug's show, was Mac Jones fit because, A, there was tons of rumors around the 49ers that that's who Kyle wanted. And B, even though he sucked beyond his first year, which I just don't understand. Like, his first year, people were like, man, this guy's going to be really good. And then he just got progressively worse. And then a lot of people said he was a really bad teammate and he was kind of a jerk. So I don't know the story around him. We'll find out very shortly. But in his first year in the NFL, Mac Jones was really, really good. And then after that, he just kind of fell off. And then he went to Jacksonville and, he's kind of whatever. But his senior year at Alabama, if you ever look at his stats from his senior year at Alabama, and he only started that 1 year, he had 41 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So he might be a guy, he might be Sam Darnold. He might be a guy that can distribute it in the right offense if the weapons are around him and make good choices, because at Alabama, he had just a boatload of talent around him. And so it's just like bing, 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 bing. He's just moving it around. 41 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. And if you believe the insiders, and it's funny because I went on ESPN the night before that draft, and they did a local media guy draft. And I picked Trey Lance for the Niners because I had heard that night before that's who they were going with. And everybody on the panel was like, what about Mac Jones? They were asking me. It was an ESPN panel on TV, and they were asking me, but we heard Mac Jones. We heard Mac Jones. We heard Mac Jones. And I go, I'm just telling you what I just heard. I just heard they're going with Trey Lance, and it was kind of a last-minute change. And I don't know the story. I mean, there's lots of speculation that Jed York stepped in and goes, we didn't trade all the way up to 3 for this non-dynamic, quarterback from Alabama. We just, they saw the pictures, he had the scar in his mouth and he kind of looked a little bit tubby and overweight. I mean, who am I to say anything about that? But he didn't have the best body or anything like that. He didn't do anything dynamic. He only started the 1 year at Alabama. So everyone was like, you can't take that guy. You can't trade 2 first-round picks and come away with Mac Jones. You got to have somebody dynamic. You got to have Justin Fields. You got to have Trey Lance. And so at the last minute, they switched to Trey Lance. And that's how it went down. Now, here comes Mac Jones, and the speculation has already begun, and I want to get your thoughts on this whole thing too. The speculation has already begun with Mac Jones. Is this any kind of a leverage play on Brock Purdy? And first and foremost, not right now. I don't know how only Kyle knows how he feels about Mac Jones, but he didn't take him at number 3. But he fits in the system in that he's a drop back quarterback that will read the defense. I don't know how well he can get through progressions. I don't know what happened after his first year in New England, because his first year in New England, a lot of people thought, well, this is, people, I mean, there's articles, I swear, go look them up, that comp him to Brady in his first year. There were people saying that. There were people saying that he was, that they were going to kind of do one of those things where, the Colts went from Manning to Luck. Like, people are going, they're going from Brady to Jones, and they're not going to skip a beat, and da-da-da-da-da. His first year when he was a rookie and he played really well, it was like 23 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. He's making the right decisions. He's winning games. They're playing well. They were like 10-7 or something. I mean, they had a winning record. And people thought that Mac Jones was going to be really good. They were looking at him, looking at that draft class, going, he's going to be the best quarterback, maybe behind Trevor Lawrence, better than the guys that were picked in the top 3. So, look, I don't know what has happened to Mac Jones, and we'll find that out as he comes into OTAs and we're able to go down there and talk to him and see what happened. But to me, it's clearly a loss of confidence. He played for Belichick. Some ugly stuff came out that he was kind of being a jerk, that he didn't get along with Belichick. It seems to me like he needs to be rehabbed. I don't know in terms of his physical skills, where he's at, arm strength, all those things. We're just going to have to find those things out. But I do know this. He's a drop-back quarterback. He'll play within the Kyle system. That means that Justin Fields or anybody else was never a consideration. And I said this on Larry's show, and I said it on my show early in the week, that if they were going to take a chance on one of those guys, Mac Jones to me was better than Zach Wilson. I told you, Zach Wilson got lucky at BYU, played a really bad schedule. They weren't in a conference. They had a senior-laden offensive line, and he just played backyard football and threw the ball all over the place. He didn't read anything. And the year before that, he wasn't very good. He was a backyard athletic quarterback. And once he got to the league and didn't go through progressions and didn't do the things you're supposed to do as a quarterback, because he never learned how to do them because he never had to. I'm not saying he's in an exact situation as Trey Lance, but it was very, very similar. And then, as always happens, both these guys, Lance and Wilson, had these great pro days where their coaches ran around with brooms, right? Oh, I'm the defensive lineman. And they had these things choreographed out, and they all, went to their right and chucked the ball 60 yards down the field, and everybody got enthralled by all that, forgot about the film. And that's what happened. Mac Jones only started 1 year at Alabama. And it was a great year, 41 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. He was incredible. And that got him drafted 15th. So does he need some more time? Can he be Sam Darnold? And the big question for everybody is, if Kyle Shanahan was enthralled by Mac Jones the way many thought he was in 2021, could this be a leverage ploy against Purdy? I don't think so. I mean, we've heard guys on ESPN, I think Orlovsky said this a couple of years ago, and it was one of the dumbest things ever. And I'll defend Brock on this. Brock's a really good quarterback. I know that some people, this is what Brock doesn't do. This is what Brock shouldn't be paid. They still are stuck on 7,262. I'm convinced of it. Everybody is still stuck on 7,262. And if Brock was taken 15th and done what he had done, if he was taken in the same spot as Mac Jones and done what he has done, no one would have a problem with paying him what he's getting paid. So he's still getting stuck with that thing around his neck that says he was the last player picked in the draft. I'm convinced of it. Mac Jones is not Brock Purdy. Now, could he be rehabbed to the point of a Sam Darnold type? Maybe. I don't know. To me, it seems mental, because his first year in the league, he was competent. He was good. He got the ball to the right place. He wasn't a bad quarterback. And then after that, and I don't know what happened in New England, but the things started coming out, and people were saying he was a bad teammate, and he was a jerk, and he did certain things. And then in Jacksonville last year, wasn't very good. So all of a sudden, here he is. And is Kyle the quarterback whisperer? Is he the guy? Is he going to be a Darnold? Is he going to be a Baker Mayfield type? We're going to have to get in here and see, because to be honest with you, I'm not going to go back and read. I mean, I know he had a decent arm, not a great arm. I know he's an okay athlete, not a great athlete. Those kind of things. That's why I think that 49ers may have soured on him, is because, God, we traded all these picks, and we're going to pick this guy that looks like this, that's got the cigar in his mouth and the spare tire around his belly, that guy, and he doesn't have elite arm strength, and he doesn't, there's nothing that screams about Mac Jones. He should have been the 3rd overall pick of the draft. And so maybe that's why the 49ers were like, yeah. But a lot of people on ESPN, when Brock Purdy was doing those things, and because of the way that those shows are kind of situated, there were people bringing up, and I think, like I said, I remember Orlovsky saying this, and I should go try to find the video for the show, of saying if Mac Jones was in San Francisco and took Brock Purdy's place, he could be doing the same things as Purdy. I remember Orlovsky saying that. And I'm thinking to myself, man, nobody gives Purdy credit. He was a 7th-round pick. He'll never outrun that. He'll never outlive that. He can get a big contract, but people just aren't going to believe it. So we're going to see it up close and personal. And for all the people who are like, I couldn't believe the reaction on social media, like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. It's like, it's an entirely cheap contract. He's a 15th overall pick in 2021, and the 49ers liked him. I think he's going to be their second quarterback, and I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest if he turned into a Sam Darnold type, because I think mentally, and I've seen this a million times, mentally these guys get beat down. It's not that they lose their physical skills. It's not that they can't do it. The problem with Trey Lance is, because of his athletic ability and at the level he played in college, he never had to learn the intricacies of the position. He just never did. And so now it's like he's trying to, like I saw an article on Trey yesterday, and he's like, he and his agents are under some sort of illusion that there's a QB1 job open for him and he should be competing for it, like with the Jets or with the Steelers or with the Browns or something like that. And I'm like, dude, you're not even in a QB3 situation. Like, you might be in a situation like Terrell Pryor, where it's like, can you play any other position? Because there's just nowhere for him to go and learn. Mac Jones, I don't think it's about that. He played at a big-time program in Alabama. He didn't get nearly enough starts, and this goes back to that theory as well. He saw Bo Nix last year, and he played at Auburn and Oregon, and he had over 60 starts. He stayed in school and had over 60 starts, and all of a sudden he comes into the NFL, and look, he didn't light it on fire early, but he was pretty good down the stretch, and they went to the playoffs, and he was their quarterback. So there's got to be something there. So Mac Jones started for 1 year at Alabama. And he started for the Patriots for 1 year, and then it started to deteriorate after that. And then he backed up Lawrence. I think he played in 6 games last year. So clearly he just lacks experience. I don't know if he can get whatever kind of mojo or magic he had back, but it's an interesting signing to me. But people were hitting me up on social media going, oh, does this mean that they're going to use this for leverage against Brock? Mac Jones? Like, I don't think so. I don't see that at all. And I think if you think that, then you're not giving near enough credit to Brock Purdy and what he's accomplished. So that's what I think. That's the Mac Jones signing. It's low risk. Is it high reward? It's medium reward. I don't think you're going to have Mac Jones come in here and all of a sudden tear it up. And then you're going to be going like, ooh, who should be the starter? I don't see that. I think it's intriguing because Kyle was supposedly enamored's too strong of a word, but Kyle liked Mac Jones coming out of Alabama. There's people that absolutely told me that. So that's the latest there. Give me your thoughts before we get going. Yeah, he's a backup quarterback. I don't know if nobody cares. I think it's intriguing because of Kyle Shanahan, but I get what you're saying. I think that. Let's see. 49ers, what was that one? Got nothing from Darnold. I would agree, but he turned that into what he had last year, and he rehabbed himself. And I think that with Darnold, and you can see it, it's a physical thing. Now, Mac Jones doesn't have the physical skills of Sam Darnold. Darnold was taken 3rd overall, and you can see when he throws the ball why he was taken 3rd overall. It's not like that. The Mac Jones skill set is not the skill set of a Sam Darnold. They don't have the same kind of skill set, I don't think. Purdy needs to be getting Jimmy G money. He's not at that elite level with Josh Allen, considering that he doesn't have a strong arm. He struggles in wet weather. He needs an elite offensive line. A lot of guys, and I respect that opinion. Thanks, 49ers 2025. A lot of guys need everything to be right around them. You know, if you look at, I comped Brock to Jared Goff, had an amazing year with the Lions last year. The Lions had most of their games inside, not only their home games, but they had a bunch of games inside. He has an elite offensive line. You look at the two-headed running back that they have behind him, and Amon-Ra St. Brown, and all the, I mean, Sean Laporte and Sam Laporta, and all the kind of guys that they have. I mean, Jared Goff has everything around him, and he has an elite offensive line. And when those situations are correct and right, he's going to be great. That's 90% of the quarterbacks in the league. Josh Allen, you mentioned, and it's funny, Josh Allen came out today and goes, people were like, well, why did you settle for $55 million? And he goes, what am I going to do with an extra $5 million? Like, I got everything. I got a house. I got a car. Everything's paid off. I don't have any loans. Like, I'm good. Like, I don't need to make more. So people are thinking, well, he can't make more than Josh Allen. Josh Allen just told you that he could have gotten a lot more. So we'll see where it goes. But like I said, I get it that people are like, it's just Mac Jones. Who cares? I think it's an interesting thing because I wonder how Kyle feels about those kind of things. And Kyle does fall in love with certain guys. So I think the Mac Jones is interesting. But here, let me give you something more interesting. Let me see here. Hang on 1 second. And then we'll get to some stuff. Because I went down a rabbit hole a little bit because of this morning. And I think you're going to kind of think this is funny. That's a good question. That's a good point. Purdy won't miss any camp time. Can you imagine if like Purdy's holding out or something and Mac Jones looks really, really good and Kyle starts to go, tells Jed how good he is. And Jed's like, well, I'm not giving him any money then. So we'll see. Anyway. Yeah, I don't know if Mac Jones. Remember that year? Remember that game against Buffalo? And they wouldn't let Mac Jones throw it because the wind was going so much, and I think he might have thrown the ball one time or maybe no times. And New England beat Buffalo when he was a rookie. I have to go back and look at that. But anyway, that happened. All right, so here's what I did. I know this is stupid, but it's kind of fun. And it might be a little bit depressing. But so anyway, I went back and I go, okay. So I click up on. Where did I find this? I'm trying to think of the website I use to look up it might be Pro Football Reference or something like that, whatever it is. So I look up obviously the first round of the draft, which outside of quarterbacks, I mean, look at those names. Like I said, Jamar Chase, Jalen Waddle, Penny Sewell, J.C. Horn, Patrick Surtain, Devontae Smith, Micah Parsons, Rashawn Slater, Vera Tucker's really good. I mean, it's just first of all, it's an exercise in don't reach for a quarterback. There's a lot of talent right there outside of the quarterbacks. Because Lawrence, I still hold out hope for. But, I mean, you look at Wilson, Lance, Fields, and Jones. It's like those are the worst picks of the first round. Look at all those other guys. So, anyway, that's one thing. So, then what I start doing is I start looking at – because these are the guys who are up for contracts right now, right? The 2021 drafted guys, they've played 4 years in the league. And so now these guys are up for contract extensions, right? So, then look at that. So, there's Aaron Banks, the 48th pick. This is what hurts. So after Banks, who's gone to Green Bay, and I would have never given 4 and 77 to, you can do this with every draft. I know that, but this is just for fun. So Freiermuth, really nice tight end. That would have been the nice backup to George Kittle. Nick Bolton, he'd be nice right now. Creed Humphrey, please, yes. He stepped right into Kansas City. So Creed Humphrey instead of Aaron Banks, yes, please. And then defensive line, you know how bad they're hurting on the defensive line right now? There's a Lee McNeil, who is really good in Detroit. And then Milton Williams is the guy who just got $1 gazillion to sign with the Patriots. He's the highest paid Patriot of all time. He was with the Eagles in the Super Bowl, and everybody just thinks he's the greatest thing ever. And he's going to be the latest guy to be like, oh, my God, they overpaid for him. But these are the guys that are up for contract extensions now. Bolton just signed a big contract extension. Creed Humphrey did. Like I said, Milton Williams did. So, I mean, you can do this in every single draft. But it's interesting now because these guys are up for extensions. And so Aaron Banks just got this big extension. So that was the second round of that draft. So not only did you lose or bomb on Trey Lance, but then your second round pick Banks, there's a ton of guys at a position of need. Bolton right now would be huge at linebacker. Humphrey, you need a center. And then there's 2 defensive linemen there at the bottom of that page that you'd absolutely love to have. In that same draft, again, just for fun, it happens every year. I get it. But just for fun, there's Ambry Thomas at the top. And right the next pick, the Rams took Ernest Jones, who just re-signed in Seattle. That'd be nice. Baron Browning just re-signed in Arizona. He would be nice. The one that really hurts is, Ayuk's out? That's okay. We have Amon-Ra St. Brown. So they took Ambry over Amon-Ra St. Brown. That one hurts. And then you know how we were talking about Drew Dahlman constantly? Yeah, need a center. God, it would be so nice to have Drew Dahlman. They took Ambry Thomas over Drew Dahlman later, and then later on, remember we were talking about a safety? God, they could really use a safety. There's Bynum down here who just, I think a Colt signed into a 4 and 60, and he was with Minnesota. So the only reason, again, I bring that up is there's Ambry Thomas, who's long gone, and then guys who signed extensions. Jones just did. Browning just did. Amon already has. Dahlman just signed with the with the Bears. And then Bynum just signed a 4 and $60 with the Colts. So it's kind of ironic because, like I said, the 21 draft, guys are signing new contracts now. So that hurts. And that's the Trey Lance draft. So not only did you blow those picks, that's your third round. Banks you took in the second round. I know you can do this every year. Now let's give the Niners some credit because there's Demo in the fifth round. So you took Demo in the fifth round. And then you see right there, the Jets took Pinnock, 175. He's new to the 49ers. They signed him to a deal. There's Huff right there. He signed with Denver. And then you see at the bottom Elijah Mitchell, who's gone as well. So it's fun to go back, or no, it's actually depressing to go back and look at these because these are the guys who just signed new contracts. And did you keep them? Did you not keep them? But there's Demo Lenore, which that's a great pickup. And then Pinnock, who's going to be a 49er this year. Huff, who's gone. Mitchell, who's gone. So 21 draft, there's some names there. So one of the other things I said is I go down, and I started in wrong order because I was going to start with the Warriors, and then I just started in on the Niners again, where I said 49ers missed out about 3/4 of the way down, and I held out hope for about 2 minutes, and then he signed with Arizona. But, they need defensive linemen so bad. And Dalvin Tomlinson, who's a former Giant in that game, not this year, but the year before when Cleveland played so great defensively against the 49ers, and they picked up Jordan Elliott from that team on the defensive line, and Tomlinson was awesome on that line too. And so when he got released yesterday by the Browns, I thought maybe the Niners are on it. And I know they're not spending, but I was like, maybe the Niners are on it. And then they weren't. 2 years, $29 million, 16 guaranteed. The Niners would have never gone to that level. But, man, they need defensive linemen. And when he popped up on the market, like I said, for about 2 minutes yesterday, I was like, maybe, just maybe they could walk into Jed's office and go, bro, we don't have anything on the defensive line. Can we at least get never mind. And so that was a bummer. They missed out on that. But they're not going to sign. They're just not going to spend any money. Like I every once in a while I forget. I'm like, hey, they could get that guy. Hey, they could get that guy. Like people were hitting me up on social media yesterday, and I haven't seen it this morning. I would imagine Cooper Kupp will sign at some point this morning, but they're not going to be in on Cooper Kupp. They already got DeMarcus Robinson, and that's the way that it's going to go. But they're not going to be on. Let me just see if Cooper Kupp is signed anywhere. But they're not going to be on. They're not going to be on Cooper Kupp. Let's see. 3 teams interested in signing Cooper Kupp, according to Adam Schefter. Who does he say on Kupp? So, it'd be great. I like Cooper Kupp. I think he'd be great. I know that he hasn't been great because of injuries, and that means the 49ers aren't going to be in on him as well. Without looking at this Schefter thing, I know that the Seahawks will be in on him because he's from Eastern Washington. And that's one of the things. So, yeah, he mentioned Seattle, New England. Who else does he mention? I don't know, whatever. But if I know because a lot of people were asking me about Cooper Kupp. I just don't see it. I just don't see Cooper Kupp being with the 49ers. So I jumped all the way down to Mac Attack, Brock Leverage, 49ers missed out. The Rodgers thing, I don't know if you're as sick of it as I am, so I'll keep this pretty brief on Aaron Rodgers. I understood the infatuation that ESPN had with Aaron Rodgers, and the story was I tell you interesting when he was with the Jets and he blows out his Achilles and all the ayahuasca, and they do the Netflix piece on him, and I can only sit through that for about 15 minutes because it makes me vomit. I'm just not an Aaron Rodgers guy. He completely ruined the culture of the Jets last year. He got Robert Saleh fired. He wasn't very good. He couldn't move. Part of his game is his athleticism as well as his arms. So all these different things. But now that I do this channel and I do what I do, I'm not forced to talk about Aaron Rodgers. I never am. But I just think he's just not a good guy. Like when you watch a movie and you watch it and you watch it and you watch it and you say, there's no good people in this movie. I don't want to watch the movie because I'd rather, even if there's one good guy, and it can be about a lot of negative things. It doesn't have to be about, bells and roses and all these great things. It's just, I'd like to identify with someone in the movie that's just not soulless. And that's how I look at Aaron Rodgers. He's a look at me, soulless, selfish person at this point. And I can't stand the guy. And so now it's like ESPN's obsessed with him. I get it when he's on the Jets and you're based in New York. I understand that. But they're talking about now like the Steelers or something, and he's not even very good, and he's not a good guy. So look, maybe the research, and I tell you this all the time, maybe the research at ESPN is just like, look, he's still compelling, and people still want to talk about him, and I put him on my board today, so maybe that's my fault. But I was looking at that thing, just going, and because this is gonna be the last time. Like I don't get it. Like I don't get what to me, even if there's no better stories or bigger names out there as far as free agency is concerned, I don't care where he ends up. I don't care if he ends up in the Giants. I don't care if he ends up with the Steelers. I don't care if he ends up with the Browns. I don't care if he ends up with the Vikings. It's not compelling to me in any way, shape, or form. It's just not. So anyway, that's the last time I'm going to do it. And I probably fell into that trap of him. So let me go to that. And we'll probably get back to some 49ers stuff. I wanted to lead with the Warriors because I think that's a big story today. But then I just fell into the trap of Mac Jones, the Niners, free agency and everything like that. Then I went down this weird rabbit hole of the 21 draft, like I said. So I started with these guys and Mac Jones there at 15. So I started talking about the quarterbacks. And then I went down to the second round, like I said, and that just makes me want to vomit because even if it's not Freiermuth, it's like what's amazing about it is they need a number 2 tight end to Kittle that can catch the ball. If that's Freiermuth, they need a linebacker to replace Dre Greenlaw. That's Bolton. And if they had taken Bolton, maybe the Chiefs would have beaten him in the Super Bowls. Especially Creed Humphrey. They need a center. There's Creed Humphrey. They need defensive linemen. There's Aleem McNeil and Milton Williams. Like I don't even know if they would resign those guys, but like. Boom, 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 boom. Like whatever position you needed, there they are. It's unbelievable. So maybe that's more depressing than anything. And then Ambry Thomas, who had a weird relationship with the Niners and their fans, same kind of thing. Ernest Jones, linebacker. Amon-Ra, that would have been amazing. Dahlman, they needed a center. There he is. You know, they need a safety. There's buying him at the bottom of that thing. So look, you can do that every single year. The 49ers, like I said, have nailed the draft a lot of times. They nailed Demo right there. There's a lot of teams that look at that draft right there and the guys picked ahead of him, and they go, oh, man, there's Demo Lenore right there. Oh, my God. And I'll just reiterate Talanoa Hufanga. Great 2022 year. Wasn't good after that. Just before or after that. Wasn't very good. So I don't take that as a big loss. And then Elijah Mitchell had that great year in 2021, 963 rushing yards. And then after that, missed 35 games and rushed for 560 yards. So I'm just not as upset about those kind of things as everybody else is. Oh, let me get one more thing in here before we get to the Warriors. The Warriors, and I know this is strange, but it says I don't know where this came from, but it says trending the 10 most attractive NFL head coaches via Yahoo. That wasn't that bad, especially for earlier in the morning. I'm not seeing it with Jonathan Gannon. People, help me out. Like I I'm comfortable. I can tell you who I think is attractive and who's not. And Jonathan Gannon that's not an attractive man, is it? What am I missing? He's number 1. Mike McDonald of the Seahawks. Kyle comes in 3rd on that list. Now, if Cliff Kingsbury was still a head coach, he'd be number 1. But he's the offensive coordinator in Washington, so that doesn't work. Steichen is an attractive man. LaFleur is an attractive man. Canales is an attractive man. Kevin O'Connell, I don't know. Dan Campbell is not an attractive man. Have you seen his teeth? Like he's got some bad teeth. So Dan Campbell wouldn't make my list, but Jonathan Cannon's number 1. And that just doesn't look like a very attractive picture to me. Maybe there's better pictures of Jonathan Gannon that I just don't know about. But I wouldn't call him one. I would say that Kyle Shanahan, when he first got here in 2017, easily was. He might have been number 1 at that point. But like I said, he's aged like the president. Like this Kyle Shanahan, as I showed right there, like he looks frazzled. Well, better looking man than me by a million miles. But I mean, I don't know if he's the 3rd most attractive man in the head coach in the NFL on that day. Yeah, he looks like he's slept on a cot for about a week. He looks like Tom Hanks when he was, Wilson. He looks like that. I mean, he looks kind of sunburned from, and he's been sleeping next to a volleyball for like a week or a month or 3 months. I don't know. Anyway, that shouldn't matter to me. And I tell you all the time that physical looks are not show fodder, but they brought it up. I mean, Yahoo brought it up. I didn't bring it up. But Jonathan, there's no way Jonathan Gannon is number 1. I'm just telling you, that's just my personal thought. I don't think Jonathan Gannon is number 1. Could be wrong. I mean, there's something I don't see. I understand that. I'm not, like I said, I was talking about fashion yesterday. I'm not a fashionista. I'm not sitting there, what's attractive, what's not. But I'm just telling you right there, I wouldn't think that. I was thinking the same thing about Michael McDonald of the Doobie Brothers. And Michael McDonald of the Doobie Brothers, good-looking man, nice beard, but they're talking about the young coach of the Seahawks, who I think he's the youngest coach in the league. Maybe he's not. But he and Gerard Mayo were a year ago. Mayo's out. So what's Mike McDonald of the Seahawks, 35, 36? So see, I respect Joy's opinion. The Vikings with Kevin O'Connell, who's on the list, and Browns. That's the former offensive coordinator of the Vikings, by the way. So there it is. So that's all that I care about. That's if Joy says it, that is the fact. That is the fact. Yeah, Sean McVay. I forgot about that. How about Sean McVay? He's a lot of people think Sean McVay's attractive. He wasn't in the top 10 there. He wasn't in the top 10 at all. Hang on a second. Let me go back to that for a minute, and then we're going to get to the Warriors, I promise you. But hang on. Got a lot of good Warriors stuff today. Don't go anywhere. Where's the attractive coach list? There we go. Yeah, no McVay. McVay's a better looking guy than Campbell. Come on. He's got to be top 5. Dave Canales, very underrated. Go look up Dave Canales, because nobody knows who Dave Canales is. He's the head coach of the Panthers. Dave Canales, good looking guy. Yeah, I'll give him that. Wow. I bet McVay is so pissed. I bet Sean McVay with his giant ego is so pissed, but he's starting to get a bald spot in the back of his head. And he's kind of moving his hair around with all the gel and stuff. But he's got that 5 o'clock shadow beard. I mean, it's working for him. So anyway, there's the attractive list on the for the head coaches. Let me just double check to make sure anybody's talking about that. What do you think? Yeah, Nicolas Cage. Who looks like Nicolas Cage? McVay? Did you say McVay looks like Nicolas? Who looks like Nicolas Cage? Let's see here. Is any NFL coach sexy? I would say that if what's his name was still around, Cliff Kingsbury, you'd probably remember the Cliff Kingsbury when he was sitting in his Arizona house during the NFL draft. I think it was during the pandemic, and they showed him. Yeah, that's a good call right there. Andy Reid. There's nothing sexier than Andy Reid, especially when he's in one of those food commercials with Patrick Mahomes and he's mowing like his burger and all that kind of stuff. Andy Reid don't care. That's what's great. Andy Reid's like, whatever. Put me one, put me last. I don't care. No big deal. All right. That's enough on the attractive coaches. Yeah, I agree with you, man. I'm not going to do that again. I'm not going to fall back into the trap of it. I'm just saying that, like, that's it. I'm officially burying that one. That's the only reason I'm talking about that. I'm done. I'm not going to do it again. All right, let's get into some Warriors talk. We are 47 minutes into the show. Thank you so much for joining us. John Lund Unleashed. If you want to continue to talk Niners, we can. If you want to get into Mac Jones, and that's kind of an interesting thing, because I'm not going to call Kyle Shanahan obsessed with him, because if he was obsessed with him, he would have taken him 3rd overall. So he wasn't obsessed with him. That's, I've heard people say he was obsessed with Mac Jones. He was there at 3 in 2021. He wasn't obsessed with him, but he was interested. So we'll find to the extent, because people are going to catch up to him, and that's what they're going to ask him. So we'll get into that. But if you want to keep keeping that conversation going, that is fine. Keep it going in the chat line, and I'll make sure that I hit you up. By the way, you can do supers if you want to get your thoughts on the screen 100%. And since we're almost an hour into the show, thanks for joining us on YouTube, John Lund Unleashed, Bay Area Sports Collective. We're also live right now on Instagram and X at John Lund Radio, Facebook as well. Thank you so much for joining us on this day, and please make sure you subscribe. All right, let's get to the Warriors, because there's a ton of stuff going on tonight as they're back at it and they take on the Kings. And we have under-discussed them because they were so red hot, but because of what's going on with free agency, and one last time, there you go. There's your free agency scorecard as of this moment with the 49ers before we move on to the NBA. So that's what's happening, as a lot of those signing guys are like, who? Farrell, Robinson, Jones, Trey Brown, Richie Grant, Gifford, Pinnock, Taylor stays, Givens stays, Curtis Robinson off the knee, Ben Botch, and then all the guys we know that are gone. So that's the last look at that. Well, we'll go back to it probably at some point. All right, let's get to the Warriors. Now, before I play some stuff from Steph Curry, which I think is really interesting, let me go to this right now. Because what I put, and we're going to go back to the top of the chalkboard today, JK back, how he fits, wrong side, Curry talks, those kind of things. I'm going to start with wrong side. Sorry, this is like Jeopardy. I'll go wrong side for 100, Alex. So there is, I was saying the other day, they're on the wrong side of the bracket, and now you wake up this morning, and you see him right there in the 3-6 against the Nuggets. And this is all subject to change because, say it with me, the season doesn't end today. So the last time we looked at the bracket, it was the Lakers who were the 3 and the Nuggets were the 2, actually. So it would have went Lakers in the first round, Nuggets in the second round, and I didn't love that. And I want them to be on the other side against young teams. So I do not love the Nuggets. In fact, the number one team I would want to avoid in the first round of the potential teams they could play. Now, they're not going to play the Thunder in the first round or anything like that. But if they were to play the Nuggets, the Lakers, the Grizzlies, the Rockets, a number of teams that they could play in that first round, the Nuggets would be my last choice because you just can't deal with Jokic. And we had this conversation the other day. I don't care who the MVP is. I don't. I know that Screamin' A does and Perkins does and on the Fox shows do. And it's so funny because they do that because there's no right or wrong answer there. And they love the debate and they think we care. And it's one of those things where I know ESPN does the research, but we don't care. Like even if Curry was in the conversation, I don't care. It's an individual accolade that at the end of their career, you can say, how many MVPs did you win? It's part of their legacy. It's part of that. And I don't care. MVPs don't win championships. Wow, the guy won an MVP. I've told you the story about when I was covering the Bulls and Jazz in 98, and Jordan brought it up in every single press conference that Karl Malone was the MVP, and he wasn't. So it actually can be used against you in a negative sense. That's what happens. Once the playoff hits, it's going to be like the Oklahoma City is going to play Denver or something, and Jokic is going to go, well, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is the MVP, not me. Like, I'm not the best player in the league. Like these guys will use it actually in a reverse way that is kind of weird. But anyway, point being is that the Warriors would play the Nuggets in the first round. I hate that matchup because Jokic is just that great. They have NBA championship experience. And so I've told you this, that if they play the Rockets, the Grizzlies, eventually the Thunder potentially, that they can walk in there, win game one, and those young teams are going to go, damn. They got Jimmy and they got Draymond and they got Steph and they got all this experience. The hell are we going to do now? The Nuggets don't care about that. The Lakers don't care about that. So at least they're in a better position. Like if for some reason they could win that, then they play the Grizzlies, and I love that. I don't think the Grizzlies are all that. I think I think where people get confused when it comes to the NBA is that there are teams, and baseball is like this a lot too. There are teams that are built for, in baseball, 162, but not for the playoffs. And there are teams in the NBA who are built for the 82 and not the playoffs. And clearly the Warriors, just based on their experience, are built for the gauntlet of the playoffs and not as much for the 82 because they're older. So in the 82 games, absolutely the Thunder are built for it because the Thunder are young and deep. In the playoffs, the problem is youth doesn't work for you in the playoffs because every other game, you don't have back-to-backs. It's not as grueling, even though it's the end of the season, so it makes it grueling. Guys are tired. So they may have a little bit more energy there. But you're not playing back-to-backs. You're not traveling all over the place. Like if the Warriors played Oklahoma City, they're going to Oklahoma. Like it's not that taxing of a flight, and they're not playing every night. So your youth and depth will play into your hands in an 82-game schedule because you can use your depth and your youth, and you're staying bouncier than other teams are. But the problem then in the playoffs becomes you don't have that advantage. And then the second part is if you're young and you're inexperienced, then that veteran team has that over you. And then the last part is your bench it shrinks down. So all that depth that the Thunder have, that's awesome during the regular season, but you're going to par that thing down to about 8 or 9 in the playoffs. And the Warriors already have that. The Warriors aren't the deepest team in the league. They're pretty deep, but they'll par that down, and it's pretty obvious who they're going to play. The Thunder, part of their thing is they wear you down. They're young. They're bouncy. They got all the energy. They got all the depth. Some of those things don't work for you in the playoffs. So the Thunder are a regular season team. The Grizzlies are a regular season team. The teams in the West that should scare the hell out of everybody, the Lakers have the experience. The Nuggets have the experience. The Warriors have the experience. It wouldn't surprise me whatsoever is if the Thunder are 1, the Grizzlies are 2, that those two teams weren't even playing in the conference finals. I think it's going to potentially come down to the Lakers, the Nuggets, and the Warriors because they are built for the playoffs. And once the Nuggets, because remember when they won the championship, they raced out, they won all those games. They ended up winning the championship. And after that, they're like, okay, we don't have to kill ourselves to win in the regular season anymore. The Warriors figured that out too after they won 73 and didn't win a championship. They were like, we don't need to do that again. So that's how I see the West. if the Warriors are to go somewhere, though, deep, they could be out in the first round with the Nuggets. That's just not a great matchup for them. Now, this was yesterday. Let's play this for you. This was yesterday on 95.7 The Game. I think it was yesterday. And it's Steph Curry asked why he thinks the Warriors could win a championship and what could prevent them from winning a championship. Let me take this off the screen so that you can see this. So here is Steph.
There are some really good teams out there. You could look at Boston, Cleveland, OKC, Denver. They're records teams that have 3 of those teams who have won it before. So you think about experience, but for us, we have that experience on our side. We have a good balance of veteran presence, youthful energy. I think the fact that since the trade, our roles have been clearly defined. Our rotation's pretty consistent from a night-to-night perspective. It might get a little tighter as you get closer to playoffs, but having your 9-10 guys that are going to play, the bulk of the minutes, who's going to be out there on the floor, that clarity has given us a lot of confidence. But at the end of the day, me, Draymond, Jimmy, we've all been around. We know what it's like to.
Let me freeze this for just 1 second. Is it just me? Steph's big. I mean, people forget because he's like 6'3" on a basketball court, and 6'3" is not big on a basketball court. But like 6'3" as a normal person is pretty big. But maybe it's just the shirt. Maybe I don't know. But I mean, shoulders, arms. I mean, the dude he didn't come to the league like that. So first of all, I want to talk about what he said. But what struck me as he's sitting there is, and that's like a workout shirt for him. Dude's he's yoked. I mean, he's pretty big. So maybe that didn't jump out at you, but it did jump out at me. Now, in terms of what he said there, it's exactly what I was kind of alluding to a minute ago, which is that's a team with veterans on it. And I think that he thinks that, look, we just added Jimmy. We added, and I keep saying this, a superstar player, and he is, and Draymond and veterans, and we've been there and we've done that. Now, the big thing is tonight, Jonathan Kuminga comes back. And I was on with Tom Tolbert yesterday, asked him about this. And he had the same concerns that I did, which is, okay, there's 2 different things going on here with Jonathan Kuminga. His agent is telling him, look, man, we got to secure that bag for you. In the offseason, we got to secure that bag for you. So you got to come back and you got to be, bat out of hell. The last 10 games before Jonathan Kuminga got hurt, and he's been out since January 4th. So long before even Jimmy Butler came here. And Jonathan Kuminga is not the most mature guy. So logic would tell you, and here I am with my maturity level saying that Jonathan Kuminga is not the most mature guy, but logic would just tell you, okay, that this team's been really, really good since he's been gone, won a bunch of games. Dynamic has changed with Jimmy Butler, went from a team that was in 10th place, and I've said this many times, I think Steph Curry would have asked for a trade in the offseason. Had this team been going there, you could just hear it in his voice where he was going with things, not really happy, didn't want to be on a mediocre basketball team. He was starting to grease the skids for it. You could just tell in his post-game press conferences, talking by his locker, all those kind of things. It was starting to happen. And then all of a sudden, Jimmy Butler comes aboard, and the dynamic has changed. And legitimately, and I believe this, legitimately, they're a team to watch in the Western Conference to get to the NBA Finals. And I never thought I would be saying that. Never thought I'd be saying that. But it's true. And it's not crazy talk. And they're a team you don't want to see. I don't love, like I said, the matchup right now would be Denver. I don't love that. I don't love a matchup with the Lakers either. But any of those young teams that they would get in the first round, and I include OKC, even though they wouldn't play them in the first round, but say Houston or Memphis or somebody like that, I think they could win. And I've said this over and over again. I don't know if they could do the gauntlet of series after series after series after series, but they're going to be in it. And teams aren't going to want to see them, and young teams aren't going to want to see them walk into their building. That's how I feel about the Warriors right at this minute. But to go back for Kuminga for a second. So his agent is in his ear, because this is what an agent is supposed to do. The agent doesn't care about the overall success of the team. He's being paid by an individual. So I just talked about the MVP. I don't care about individual awards. And it's for the end of the career where you look at those awards and you say, okay, how great is this player? People love debating it, but it's not for right now. It's actually for the end of their career. Now, same thing. So the agent has got blinders on. And the agent doesn't care about the Warriors' success. And the agent isn't looking at the Warriors. And the agent doesn't have, maybe he has some other Warriors on his paper. But the bottom line is his job, he has one job. It's to secure Jonathan Kaminga as much money as he possibly can. And he gets a percentage of that money. And then that way, other guys look at him potentially that are looking for an agent, and they'll say, well, he got Kuminga $200 million. I'm going to go with that guy. So that's the guy's job. It's nothing but that. So what he's telling Jonathan Kuminga is, dude, for us to secure that bag, you got to get in there and kick ass. Because his last 10 games before Kaminga got hurt, he averaged over 20 points per game. And we were having that debate constantly. Can he be the number 2? Do they need to make a trade? When we started the podcast / YouTube show back in early December, when we talked about the Warriors, a lot of the conversation was, do they need to make a trade? Can Kaminga be a true number 2 to Curry? Will it time out right? Well, all that stuff's gone because Jimmy Butler's the number 2. And Draymond Green is what Draymond Green is. But the Batman Robin situation that we constantly talked about with Jonathan Kuminga, that doesn't exist anymore. The Batman is Curry, as he always has been. And the Robin is, who was it? Was it going to be Wiggins? Was it going to be Kuminga? Was it going to be, no. It's Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler is a superstar. And he might even be a 1B. But we'll just call him the Robin for now, and then kind of the Joker, but in a weird way that doesn't work. But Draymond Green is the 3rd, and they've got a pecking order on this team, and that's generally what it takes to win a championship. You got to have some sort of a pecking order that way. You got to have a star. You got to have somebody close to that star. You got to have your Pippen to Jordan. You got to have your Shaq and Kobe. You got to have like whatever it is. You got to have your, that's just how it works through the history of time. So you had Klay Thompson. So that's what Jimmy Butler has done. He is a clear number 2 on this team, and with a lot of teams, and he was in Miami, he could be the Batman. He could be the number 1. So he's that good. And so Jonathan Kuminga and his agent went, damn, we were vying for that role. And had I been able to fill that role, if I didn't get hurt, if I could have filled that role, I was starting to play that way. They believe probably that they could have been that. Well, they're not. And so Steve Kerr, I'm sure, but has already done this as Kuminga's worked his way back from this like ankle that never would heal. But he sat down with Jonathan Kuminga and he's like, all right, dude, the dynamic has changed. We love you. Nothing's changed in that regard, but your role, which was emerging superstar starting player on this team, guy who was going to get the big bag because he was going to show us that he could be the Robin to the Batman of Curry, and which I didn't ever think was going to be the case, but okay. That was, I'm sure, what his agent and he thought, like, if I just get that opportunity, I can do it. Well, those things have changed. And so now your role is come off the bench, provide energy, play defense. We're going to, again, if they're going to play Denver, you might have to be on Aaron Gordon. You might have to be on Ben Brown. You might have to be on Jamal Murray. There's a number of different guys, Porter Jr., like whatever. If we're playing the Lakers, you might be on Luka. You might be on LeBron. You might be on Austin Reeves. There's going to be a lot of different things, but we've got to have you help us defend certain guys. You're that athletic. And then on the offensive end, I don't want you out jacking threes. I don't want you trying to improve your 3-point shot at this point to show that you can do that so you can get the bag. What we need you to do is, you see what Jimmy Butler does? He gets to the rim. Nobody can stop you from getting to the rim. You are so athletic. Put the ball on the floor, get to the rim, draw some fouls. But remember, your pecking order offensively for what you were to what you are, especially as they get closer to the playoffs and you par that bench down, you're not a number 2 option. You're not a number 3 option. We'll get you the ball, but you're probably not going to be that 20-point scorer. You may have some breakout games every now and then, but everything has changed. And for a young player, and this is where the difference is in finances, for an older player who's already secured that bag, and that's why Jimmy Butler was so desperate to do it, they're fine. They can relax now. And they can just play their game. But before you've secured that money, it's all about securing the money. And there's a misconception among fans of they want to win, they want to win, they want to win, they want to win. They don't. They don't want to win until they get their money and they secure their future and generations of their family's future. That's number 1 on the list. And I tell you it all the time. It's always about the money. It's about securing the future for yourself and your family. And so here's Jonathan Kuminga at 22, not exactly ripe yet and mature. And he's thinking to himself, and his agent isn't helping the situation probably by saying, you got to come back and you got to score 20 and you got to force this thing and you got to show people what you're all about. When reality is he needs to come back, fit into the system, fit into the team. And I've told you this before because we've seen it with Eagles guys. The residual effect of winning will get you paid. Milton Williams with the Patriots coming from the Eagles, or Josh Sweat going from the Eagles to the Cardinals, or you see it all the time. Baseball free agency. We want the guy who has the stench of the championship, the champagne. He still stinks of champagne, and we want him on our team because somehow he knows how to win. And you know how to win because there's a bunch of guys around you and you're in a great situation, but people feel like, okay, he knows how to win. Now, if you're LeBron or Steph or, somebody who was the leader of that winning team, I buy that. But just because you're around winning doesn't mean you know how to win. But there's a misconception among that of teams. So if the reality is if Kuminga comes in, plays a role, does what he's supposed to do, has that occasional 20-point game, but teams see that he's a mature enough guy to say, look, he'll take on certain defensive roles and he'll fit within the offense. And that's not easy because the team that he left is not the team he's returning to. And so now he's like, well, how do I fit? What do I do? And I think Steve Kerr is sitting down with him and saying, look, this is what we want you to do. And logically, you think, well, that's really easy. Like I remember when Wiseman was drafted, when James Wiseman was drafted. And I thought to myself, what an easy role he has to play. They want him to just rim run, defend, get up and down the floor, use your athleticism. And I don't think he ever accepted that role. He was like, no, I was a dominator and I'm going to score and I'm going to shoot. And it's these guys get this mentality. And we think as fans, like, what an easy role. Have Kaminga come back. You defend certain positions. You're a multi-position defender. We don't need you to, shoot a bunch of threes or score. We need you to be a secondary scorer, even on the second team. Get to the rim, be a Jimmy Butler type. We want you to get to the rim, free throws, those kind of things. Just play that role. And then from there, we'll see where it goes. But he's probably sick of that. He's probably heard that his whole, just, take your role. You'll get a bigger role. You'll get a bigger role. It was like, well, this year was supposed to be on my time to get that big role. And now here's Jimmy Butler. And it's like, well, you're not better than that dude. And you're not going to be in the starting lineup because you don't fit, because you don't shoot well enough. So now you're coming off the bench and we'll figure out that role for you. And his agent's in his ear going, that's not good enough, bro. That's not good enough. We got to get that bag. So it's not automatic that he comes back and all of a sudden, and I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. But he's got to realize at the age of 22, when he hasn't really gotten his full true shot to be that guy, that he's going to be like, oh man, I missed my chance. Now Jimmy Butler's here. What am I going to do? And he's got to realize that you got to come back. You got to win. And he could be the key to them winning, even though he's not Butler and he's not Curry and he's not Green. He's not that kind of a guy, but he could be, I don't know if he's the fourth most important, but he might be. There's going to be certain series where they're going to look at Jonathan Kaminga and go, dude, we really need you here. We really need you. So he can still secure that because you don't have to be the starter and you don't have to go 20-10. And because teams are desperate. And when they have money, they're like, here, we'll throw at this guy because we think he's still got potential. And everybody looks at that. They know that Jonathan Kaminga is a ridiculous athlete. Among athletes in the league, and the NBA might be the most athletic, among athletes in the league of a ridiculously athletic league, he's in that elite percentage, upper percentage. That's how great of an athlete he is. So teams are going to bet on his potential anyway. And more so, that's what I would be telling him if I was his agent. Just relax, go in, fit in, win. It only takes one team. There is going to be that one team. You're going to be fine. But for some weird reason, I don't get that vibe. I get the vibe that he's going to try to force it and the agent's in his ear. And so I hope that's not the case. I hope I'm 100% wrong. So that's my thought on Kaminga. Give me your thoughts on Kaminga coming back against the Kings. Like I said, I don't want to paint it as a negative thing because I don't think it is going to be, but I hope that there's not someone in his ear saying to him, you got to come in and you got to dominate this thing. I don't care if Jimmy Butler's here. You're going to play like you played when you left. That's the team you left. It's still that team. So we'll see. But there you go. Steph Curry's stuff was interesting, though. And, some people were hitting me up and showing me this stuff. And they're like, well, I'm like, that's how Steph should feel. That's how the Warriors should feel. They should feel like they're one of the better teams out there. And I think they are right now. So anyway, that's as far as the Warriors are concerned. So JK back on the board. How he fits, I just told you. Wrong side of the bracket. Like I said, it's not so bad today. The other day it was Lakers in the first round, Nuggets in the second round. Today it's Nuggets in the first round, which I hate. Somehow if they could get by that, it's Grizzlies in the second round. I think they'd win that series. If they could somehow get by the Nuggets, which I don't know that they can, just for the sake of fun here, they could get by the Grizzlies. And then at that point, I think the Lakers beat the Rockets. I think the Lakers beat the Thunder. And I think we get a West final of Warriors Lakers. Right now, I would say the West final would be Nuggets. In that's what I'm looking at right now. I would say Nuggets Lakers. But because I hate that draw. I hate that first round draw. So there's that. As far as standings are concerned, and this is why a lot of things can change here. OKC's going to be the one. But you see right there, the 2 and the 3 is a dead heat. So both with 34 losses. The Lakers are only 1 off that. The Rockets 2 off that, and the Warriors 3 behind that. And you start looking at how many games are left in the season. Not a lot. So, you start looking at it going, well, 3 back's not that far. Well, you look at it and you say, all right, what do we got? 17 games remaining. So they could do it. I mean, you could catch the Rockets in those 17 games. I don't know that you could catch the Lakers 5 back with 17 to play. They would have to absolutely jump in the tank. But as you look at the last 10, 9-1 for the Warriors, 6-4 for the Rockets, you just gained over the last 10, you gained 3. And that's exactly what you would need to catch them. 8-2 for the Lakers. They're starting to come around. That matters. Like, I generally speaking, during the season, I don't care what a team's done in their last 10. But what it starts doing when there's 17 games left in the season, you start thinking to yourself, okay, who's rolling? And obviously the Warriors are rolling the Lakers. And then I'm sitting there looking ahead to this whole thing, assuming that they're out of the play-in. And I told you, if they're in the play-in tournament, then all bets are off. And I'm looking ahead, but then I look back for a second and I see Minnesota, who I don't think Minnesota's very good, but there they are with 29, where the Warriors are at 28. The Clippers are at 30. I told you the Clippers would fall off, but they're only 2 back. Kings are at 31. That's what makes tonight's game critical, is because you lose tonight, you're at 29 losses. They're at 31, so Sacramento's right up your butt. So the Kings, the Clippers, the Timberwolves still could catch you. Tonight is an absolutely critical game against the Kings because, again, after tonight, there's 16 games, and you'd have a 4-game lead in the loss over Sacramento. You could put them at 32 losses tonight. There'd be 16 games remaining. It'd be really tough for the Kings to catch you. 16 left, 4 ahead in the loss column. So that's where it is. So again, I assume things, and I'm looking ahead, and I look right behind me, and I see Minnesota with 1 more loss and the Clippers with 2 more losses. So they're not exactly out of the woods on this whole thing. I guess I'm assuming it because of the way that they've played and how I feel like this team is. But they drop into that play-in tournament. All you are is a hot game or 2 away from your season ending. As optimistic as we are that we've seen since we've seen Jimmy Butler don the Warriors uniform, all of a sudden you look around and you're like, So there's that. Give me your thoughts before I get into some Giants stuff, because I observed something interesting yesterday, so I want to get into that whole thing. But give me your thoughts on the Warriors. I'm still obviously open to having a conversation about the 49ers who just joined us, and you missed that conversation about Mac Jones. We can still get into Mac Jones if you want to do that, or anything in relating to the 49ers and their free agency. Hi, Dom. Good to see you, man. It was great to see you with Paulie and Creative Tony last night. He says, you nailed it. That's the 50-50 with Kuminga. Can he be mature and fall back on his past outbursts of immaturity, shades of Poole? That's a great call right there. Yeah, I wish look, I hope that, and this is where the agent comes in, and where I really don't trust the agent, and it just depends. I don't know his agent. But like I said, an agent is solely working for the player. He doesn't care if the Warriors make the playoffs or not or whatever. He's just there to secure the money for his player, and therefore impressing other potential clients in the process. That's what he's trying to do. He's just trying to build his business. He doesn't care. He's not an ally of the Warriors. If the Warriors went to him and said, could you please explain to JK how this is going to work and what we need him to do, I'm sure they do that, especially for a 22-year-old. You don't need to do that for a guy who's 27 or 28 or whatever, who's established in this league, who's already secured a contract. You don't need to go to his agent. But maybe at the age of 22, they go to Kuminga's agent and they say, look, man, we really need him to play a certain role. And I get it. You're trying to secure a bag for the guy. But if he does A, B, and C, he's going to get it anyway. So please, can you help us on this thing? Now, having said all that, I still think that because he's got the upside he has, because he has the athleticism he has, because right before the Jimmy trade, he was averaging in the previous 10 games over 20 points a game, there's a team out there that is going to give him the money. Now, are they going to give him over $200 million? I doubt it. But there's a reason why the Warriors haven't extended him yet. And the reason is, and I've told you this before, and this is well-known information, so I'm not letting anything out of the bag that shouldn't be. He can be very tough to coach sometimes. He can be immature at times. He thinks he's a lot better than he actually is, and he thinks he's accomplished a lot more than he actually has. He's not the easiest. And so when you're going to give that kind of money, and you brought up, and that was a great point. Who said that? Was that you, Dom? About, shades of Poole. There is shades of Poole here. And there was regret in giving Jordan Poole that contract. Maybe it was partly because, oh my God, Draymond Green punched him. Let's hurry this thing along, whatever the case may be. And they regretted it and they traded the guy. Kuminga, I wouldn't say is quite on that level, but yeah, there is a concern there in giving Jonathan Kuminga that kind of money and thinking to themselves, okay, after Curry's gone, after Draymond's gone, is this guy going to be the face of the franchise? Like, are we going to give this guy that much money, which gives us the belief, or him the belief, that he's next? And do we want him to be that guy? And believe me, trying to follow Steph Curry is not only the basketball on the court as far as the next one for the Warriors, but off the court. And we've said this a million times, and you're aware of it. There's more to being a leader of a franchise than just putting the ball in the hole. There's all these things that Steph Curry does as the CEO of the Warriors, and I don't care who's actually the CEO of the Warriors. It's Steph. Steph is everything to the Warriors, on the court, off the court. He rarely makes a misstep. He actually never makes a misstep. Correct myself. He never makes a misstep. And so for Jonathan Kuminga, who hasn't shown near that type of maturity, and it's not fair. Jonathan Kuminga doesn't have the background of Steph Curry. Steph Curry was born and bred to do what he's doing. Jonathan Kuminga is a young guy trying to make it in this league. And so if I'm the Warriors, it's not just so much the take the mantle from Steph Curry from a basketball standpoint. It's more the, can this guy be the face of our franchise? Because if we give him $200+ million, he's going to be, if he's not the face, he's going to be one of the faces of the franchise moving forward. And that's a really, I was going to say difficult, that's an impossible task, taking that baton from Steph Curry. And so the organization right now is going, damn, not now, not next year, maybe the year after. And Steph Curry did say in that interview that he's going to probably, he wants to outplay the contract that he's in right now. And why wouldn't he? And I've told you this before, without Jimmy Butler, Steph Curry's asking for a trade to another team, and it's heartbreaking and everything else, but that's what would happen. So it's not just as simple as saying, let me get back to Kaminga for a second. It's not as simple as saying Jonathan Kuminga, the basketball player. It's the Warriors saying Jonathan Kuminga, face of the franchise for the Warriors moving forward in the next couple of years. And they're not sure. So that's what's going on as far as he is concerned. But one thing he can do to help secure that is come in, play within this system, be that defender, find your way offensively, be more of a Jimmy Butler. We don't need you on the perimeter. You don't have to, you don't need to dominate the basketball. We've got it going right now. Just, this is what we want you to do, A, B, C, D. And hopefully that doesn't fly in the face of what his agent wants to say, which is, no. You got to go in there and you got to force it. You got to get 20 a game. And we got to get you a big contract. People have got to be able to see what you are. So I hope they don't. Hope that's it. That wouldn't surprise me. KD, I don't know if they could fit it in, now with Jimmy Butler and the extension and all those kind of things. But I will say this, maybe not you bring up a good point, though, not maybe KD, but this is his opportunity. If he wants to be a Warrior, if he wants to succeed Steph, if he want all those kind of things, clearly they go into Jimmy Butler and less of the two timeline, which that's things totally gone. But what I think your overall point there is if JK can't show that he can be that kind of a guy, then you know what? We may need to move you in the offseason. Not because we don't think you can be the Robin, because that's gone. That stuff's gone. Like Steph Curry's the guy, Jimmy Butler's too. Like, since you've been gone, pal, somebody else moved into your spot. Sorry, you can be this. You're not going to be that. So if he can't handle that, that's a great point. Tacky bringing up. Tacky is our newsbreaker. This is beautiful. Juice meeting with the Steelers today. The Steelers. Not many teams need a fullback anymore. Steelers. The Seahawks, I thought, would have met with him. I have no idea if the Seahawks are meeting with him. Although the Seahawks went kind of crazy a little bit yesterday. They went out and got Marquez Valdez-Scantling, which I'm not a fan of, so good. That's fine for them. He'll get a pass, a deep ball. He'll be wide open, and he'll drop it. And then they took DeMarcus Lawrence, which is a really strange thing for me because DeMarcus Lawrence is 33, didn't play last year, and hasn't been good for a while. He's a good run edge guy is what DeMarcus Lawrence is. Everybody always thinks of him as a pass rusher. He's actually really good against the run. Not great as a pass rusher anymore at the age of 33 out of Boise State University. By the way, speaking about a good draft, Dallas took Zach Martin in the first round of that draft in 14 and DeMarcus Lawrence in the second round. That's pretty good. Anyway, we'll keep you up to date on Juice. Juice. Let's see. Yeah, there you go, Tacky. That's a good call. Yeah, I would. That's a really good call. Actually, I could see Juice going to the Chargers, and I think I've made myself clear on Juice. I really like the dude, man. I mean, every training camp we talked to him, he would always come on the show. You walk in the locker room, he would make eye contact with you and say hello and know your name. And I mean, what a great dude, man. But right now, his best attribute was he was great in the locker room, and he was George's best friend, and he was an awesome guy. But I looked at his numbers after he left, and it's like he had 10 carries the last 2 years. He had 19 catches the last 2 years. He wasn't hammering guys in the hole. It's 3rd and 1 for the Niners. Oh, Juszczyk with a killer block on the linebacker. First down, Niners. Like he wasn't doing that. And that's why they brought in the kid from Jacksonville, and that's who's going to take his place. So it sucks. And it kind of does. And as we kind of migrate back to the Niners for just a second, it does feel like, to an extent, an end of an era, even though I still think it's the Kyle Shanahan era. And I do believe, and I asked you this to start the show, it's a financial reset. It's a financial reset. And sometimes teams need to do those things. But I don't want that, at least in my mind, I'm not confusing that with a tear down, a rebuild, a whatever the term that you want to use. And again, Steve Young is on with Tolbert today, and they're going to release that interview at one point. So I'm interested in hearing what Steve has to say. But remember, we played this for you a couple of weeks ago. Steve Young said on the Rich Eisen show, ABC is going to happen. And ABC did happen, which is they tore this down. They weren't going to spend like that. They were going to draw the line financially. Jed was pissed about the $334 million, $334, whatever it was, $million that they paid for a 6-11 team, and they needed a financial reset. And teams need that every once in a while. Now, does that mean they're not going to be any good? I want to see what they're going to be like in training camp. At least give me that, because I have a talk show every single day, Monday through Saturday, and I know that I've got to have an opinion on things. But the only thing I want to do, the only thing I ask of you is let me see a little bit. Let me see some OTAs. Let me see what they got. Let me see, because what happens is, let me see what they draft like. Because what's happening right now, and I was talking to a friend of mine, Ian Furness up at KJR in Seattle. If we got some Seattle listeners, because I go on his show every single week. And what we were talking about the other day, I go on his show on Tuesdays up in Seattle. And what we were talking about the other day was, Seahawks fans were freaking out because Geno Smith gets traded to the Raiders. DK Metcalf gets traded to the Steelers. They're like, what the hell? It's like the season doesn't start tomorrow. So all of a sudden they pick up Sam Darnold, which I think is a good move for Seattle, better than Geno Smith in my mind. They do it for a lot less money. And they're, I don't know if they're going to pick up Cooper Kupp. I don't like Valdez-Scantling, but there's still a draft to be done and all those things. So, they're 10-7 football team. They're changing what they are. And the 49ers have looked in the mirror, and I know I don't like it. You don't like it. They've lost a lot of guys, but I wrote this at johnlundunleashed.com, and hopefully you've read it. They lost a lot of name value. They lost a lot of quantity. They didn't lose a lot of quality, and they've replaced just about every player that they lost in free agency already outside of Dre Greenlaw. They haven't replaced Dre Greenlaw, and he's not really replaceable. I don't know how they're going to do it. Some guys are going to get released after signings. Yesterday was the first day of the league year. But what's going to happen here is they're going to try to replace guys. I don't love what they've done so far, but they haven't drafted. And there's still a lot of phases and ways that you can add to your football team. It's not over. Over? Did you say over? It's not over. They've got a lot of work to do, and we'll see. But they do have a last place schedule. They do have one playoff team coming in here, the Rams, and so we'll see. And so it's kind of that thing is we're judging them, and we don't even know what the complete picture is. I don't love it. But like I said, Banks overpaid, Moore overpaid, Hufanga overpaid, and hurt. Elijah Mitchell hurt. Like we look at all these names and we go, oh my God, Juice. Juice wasn't very good last year. I'm sorry to say. I don't want to be the bad guy here. I don't want to be the bad guy, but the reality is they didn't need him anymore in the way that he was playing at the age of 33. He's going to go to a different team, and he might be really, really good on a different team. It's just for here, it wasn't good anymore. Anyway, we've gone over that a ton of times, so we don't need to do it again. Episode 87, JK back. We got into that, how he fits. Wrong side, not as much on the bracket today. I played that Curry talks. He talks about why he thinks the Warriors can win it. Mac Attack is Mac Jones. A lot of people on social media yesterday were asking me if this is a leverage play on Brock. It's not. This is actually a dart at the dartboard saying, hey, we like this guy coming out. You see this all the time, by the way, in sports. Hey, we really like this guy coming out. He didn't work out wherever he was. Let's see if, were we right on this evaluation? Because, I mean, at least you didn't spend $30 million guaranteed to say, were we right on this evaluation like Adam Peters did for Javon Kinlaw? Like, he's like, oh, my God, I know I was right on that evaluation. $30 million. Like, dude, are you kidding? Like, they're giving Mac Jones, a small contract. What was it? I have it right here. I guess 2 years and $7 million or something like that. Look, I'm not jumping up and down. Let me see. Yeah, 2 years, $7 million. I mean, I'm not jumping up and down for Mac Jones, but I am kind of intrigued by it. Like, if they had signed, I don't know, throw me another quarterback out there. Daniel Jones was a guy that we had talked about. Joe Flacco was a guy we talked. Like, I wouldn't be talking about the backup quarterback of the 49ers. I don't care. Because here's the thing. If you get to the backup quarterback of the 49ers, adios, amigos. Your season's over. Like, when Miami got to Skylar Thompson, sorry, your season's over. Like, it's the biggest drop-off in sports when you go from that guy to that guy. Next man up, not when it comes to the quarterback. There aren't enough of them to go through the league, let alone to go to your second quarterback. So I wouldn't be talking about Joe Flacco. I wouldn't be talking about, hell, I don't even know how much I'd be talking about a Zach Wilson or anything like that. I knew Justin Fields wasn't coming here. I told that to Krug last week. He didn't fit the offense in any way, shape, or form. If you look at who's going to be a backup on a team, look at the starter, and then the backup's got to be a similar type of a player because you don't want to play the offense in a totally different way. Like, if Justin Fields had come here, he never was going to. But if he had, then it's like, okay, we have a one read and run quarterback. We got to totally change the offense when he's in the game. Mac Jones, at least conceptually, is a drop back quarterback who's going to read the defense and do similar things to what Brock Purdy did, but it at this particular juncture, he's not a threat. It's just like Sam Darnold when they brought him in. He was never a threat. Darnold wasn't going to be a threat. But what a lot of people are hoping is, okay, he resurrects himself and he goes somewhere else. Because the one thing that is intriguing about Mac Jones is his first year in the league, he was really, really good. He was, I think it was second in offensive rookie of the year for the Patriots. A lot of people were talking to him. You look back at that draft, like I said, I've popped this up before, but I'll just do it one more time. And I'm not going to go to the rest of the draft picks because you're going to get pissed at me. Right there. So you look at that and beyond, like I said, all the great picks other than the quarterbacks there. But you look at right where, Mac Jones is picked, and a lot of people are like, damn, Mac Jones? He's the best quarterback out of that group. He was better than Trevor Lawrence as a rookie, and Trevor Lawrence has regressed, and we'll see what he does. Zach Wilson's in Miami now. Trey Lance and his agents are trying to say that he deserves a QB1 shot. It's like, what? Justin Fields was signed by the Jets, and they're going to find out what Chicago and Pittsburgh found out, that he's a run-first quarterback, and you got to be a drop-back guy. Not a drop-back guy, but you got to read the defense at some point. You got to win from the pocket at some point. And there's Mac Jones right there. And a lot of people thought, well, that guy's the best quarterback of the draft after the first year. That's what they thought. And so remember, he played 1 year, started 1 year at Alabama. 41 touchdowns, 4 interceptions, had a bunch of great weapons. And he was great. So he went into New England. Bill Belichick's the head coach. They run a conservative offense. Mac Jones is successful his first year. And then I have no idea what happened after that. He alienated teammates, if you remember right, pissed off a lot of people, did not play well, a lot of stupid throws. That's just what I remember. A lot of stupid throws from Mac Jones. We're like, what is he doing? And, some of that, and this is how I explain off Brock Purdy last year, and you can agree or disagree with me. The more weapons that Purdy lost, the more he tried to force things, the more he tried to play out of who he was, which is you're Brock Purdy. Your biggest superpower is you don't turn the ball over. You're smart. So he got out of that element because all of a sudden McCaffrey's down and Mason's down and Ayuk's down and he's getting pressure. So all of a sudden it's like, okay, and the defense sucks and the special team stinks. And that's what complementary football is that I don't have to play out of my comfort zone. I don't have to play out of my zone because I know my defense will get it done. I know that my special teams won't make a mistake. Well, last year it was like your special team stinks, your defense stinks, and you better do it offensively because that's the only way you can win a football game. And so what did he do? He tried to do too much. What does Brock Purdy not want to do? Not try to do too much. So he played out of himself. So the only comp I have for Mac Jones and not knowing the situation intricately because it was in New England was that, to me, they lacked weapons, and they have for a long time now there. And Mac Jones just tried to do too much, and he wasn't capable of doing that. So will he come into San Francisco with the type of weapons when they're healthy? Ayuk when he's healthy, McCaffrey when he's healthy, George Kittle, all these kind of things, assuming they fix the offensive line to an acceptable level, then there's Mac Jones, and maybe he can be successful. I'm not saying he's going to take over for Brock Purdy. Don't misconstrue what I'm saying. I'm not saying that. Brock Purdy deserves the credit that he's gotten. And like I said, Dan Orlovsky, and I'll go back and find this. I should have found this before the show. I apologize. I should have this. But Dan Orlovsky said at one point, I don't remember in the point of his career he said that. It might have been early in Mac Jones' career. It might have been like his second year when he started to struggle. But Orlovsky said at one point, if Mac Jones was in San Francisco, he could do what Brock Purdy is doing. And I was like, I don't think so. I mean, you got to give Brock Purdy some credit. Come on. But I always say this too. When Sam Darnold came into San Francisco and I went to training camp, and I was never a Sam Darnold guy because he never processed it. And I saw early in training camp where he was struggling processing, and I was like, this is still Sam Darnold. Don't like it. But then you could see how he ripped the ball, and you're like, okay, I see why he was the third pick in the draft. Mentally, he struggles sometimes and doesn't see it. But I could see why he was the third pick in the draft, because he can rip it, and he's an athlete. Now, Mac Jones, I don't know if he's that. But there had to be a reason why people thought he could be a really good quarterback, because he was taken 15th overall. So with Justin Fields, for example, I just don't think Justin Fields is ever going to see it. I think he's an amazing athlete, and his entire life he's relied on being an athlete. So he never had to learn the position. But Mac Jones has never been that type of an athlete. So in the back of my mind, I'm thinking to myself, okay, what went wrong? Because he's had to be a read, go through the reads, go through the progressions type of guy. Now at Alabama, he had so much damn talent on the 2021 team that maybe he could just distribute the football, and his job was really easy, because 41 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in the SEC, that's something. I think for his career, Mac Jones was, I'm doing this off the top of my head, so I could be wrong. So somebody tell me if I'm wrong here. It's something like 56 touchdowns and 7 interceptions in his career at Alabama. It's something like that. But again, if you go look at the guys he was throwing to, they're 10 yards beyond guys on deep balls. They're running crossing routes with nobody even near them, and then they got a ton of speed to score. And so it's not exactly fair too. But I think it's something like 56 and 7 was the ratio, touchdown interception ratio. And I know his last year there, the only year that he started, he was 41 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So there's intrigue. It just doesn't mean that he's not competition. This doesn't mean that he's going to be leverage against Brock. Although somebody said this a little bit earlier, I think it was Dom. Dom said this a little bit earlier. I do wonder if his agents are like, we better get into camp. Like, I don't know. Because only Kyle and everybody in that building knows what the intrigue level for Mac Jones was back in 2021. Because we hear from insiders all the time, well, he loves this guy or loves that guy or this, that, and the other. And it's like, well, if Kyle would have loved him, he would have taken him. He didn't. Right? I mean, it's, and there is rumors that, Jed was like, we're not taking that dude that we saw in the locker room with the cigar in his mouth, the fat guy, that guy. Like, the guy was like, kind of like what I am right now, because it's winter. I'll get this off, but it's winter. But like that guy, no. We didn't trade 2 first-round picks to go up to 3 to take the guy that had the cigar in his mouth and the big belly. We're not taking that guy. We're taking an athletic guy. We're taking an upside guy. We're going to win the press conference. I mean, that's what it is. You want to win the press conference, take Trey Lance or Justin Fields. So, look, I don't know what the guy is, but we'll see. So there you go. All right, we've covered a lot of stuff. I got to get to spring training a little bit too, and I haven't gotten to it, but I got something for you on spring training. I just want to make sure that we don't have anything in regards to the Warriors or Mac Jones or Niners-related offseason. Hi, Jess, man. It has a highlight reel of dirty plays he's made. Yeah, you're right. Didn't he try to trip a guy or something like that? Now that I think about it, that's a good point. Yeah, there you go. Kicks, guy jumping over him in the man parts, gets a sack, fumble, twists the ankle of the guy who sacked him. I remember that. He was the quarterback when, this wasn't his fault, but Chandler Jones got the interception in Vegas, and that was because Jacoby Myers threw it back across. And then remember, he trucked Mac Jones. Somebody get that video for us. Remember that? Mac Jones tried to tackle Chandler Jones after that interception, and Chandler Jones just Heisman him and just trucked him. That was amazing. I just remembered that. That's a great call right there. What else? Oh man, that's hilarious. Let's see. What do we got going? Nope, people are talking politics. Not doing it. Not going to bring it. Juice Meekman, the Steelers, got that. Let me go down to high on the comments here. Oh, we got I always make sure that we hit up our supers. And if you got a super and you want to get your comment, question, thought on the board, hit us up on supers. That would be amazing. Our good friend Harry Johnson is here, everybody. Can I ask a personal question? Are you looking for another radio job? If so, how long is it going to be before you move again to another city for one? It's funny you would ask that question because for those who don't know my background, I got into radio. Like I said, I played that Steve Young interview. So like in 98 and or 97, I guess it was. And the Jazz were playing the Bulls. And so I covered somebody gave me David Locke, who's the play-by-play voice of the Utah Jazz, gave me an opportunity to be the radio reporter for the Bulls locker room in 97 and 98, and then gave me a regular job doing middays in Salt Lake City. And then after that, met my first wife up in Portland, Oregon, went there. From Portland, I worked for ESPN in Pittsburgh. I ran a station and did Steelers pre and post game up there. Got offered a morning show in Detroit, which I worked for a number of years. But then, like I said, I was going to sign a contract and I was pre and post game for the Detroit Lions radio network. And I went up to my then wife and said, hey, we're going to sign a new contract. And she said to me, she's on the West Coast. And she said to me, either the job in Detroit or me, you make a decision. And, so at the time, that's what I did. I said, okay, let's not do that. And we go back to the West Coast. And actually, we didn't go to the West Coast at that point. We went to Dallas. I was working for ESPN again in Dallas. And I was doing, like I said, pre and post game for the Cowboys. I was running the Dallas Mavericks radio network, and I was working for Mark Cuban. So I went there. And then from Dallas, there was we went back to the West Coast. I was actually working in Portland again because my wife was from there. I'll be honest, we were having marital problems. And so we went back closer to home. It was really cool because I really enjoyed working for the Portland Trailblazers radio network. I was doing pre, half, and post for them, working with a guy named Michael Holton, who you might remember, went to UCLA, really, really cool guy, became a good friend of mine. Was working for the Oregon Ducks. They went to the national championship against Auburn the year that I was there. I was only there for 1 year. And I guess you would call a recruiter for radio was listening to my show. His name was Rick Scott. He was a big sports radio consultant. He was up in Seattle, and he heard my show in Portland and knew that 95.7 The Game was starting in San Francisco. Called me, asked me if I wanted to go down there. I was like, absolutely. And then I was there. I went to, obviously, they started in July of 2011. Stayed there till 2016. Worked with Tolbert from 16 to 19. Papa came over to the game. Came over to KMBR 2019, and we worked together until November of 2024 when I became too expensive. Ratings were really good, by the way, with us, but I became too expensive, and that's what happened. So as a long way, because why not just tell everybody exactly the history of me? I'm not really looking for a radio job. I moved all over the country for radio, and I enjoyed it. I think it made me a more well-rounded talk show host, and I understand about I didn't live in the South, but I covered college football a lot, and I realized their passion because I almost got killed by Auburn fans on a stage in Scottsdale before the national championship game. If I haven't told that story, I'll tell it to you in a minute. But so I have a well-rounded background and have worked in just about every single market in the country. I've worked nationally for ESPN, so I understand the national thing. I actually moved up to Bristol for a summer when I was living in Detroit and did a game night on ESPN radio for a summer, which was very challenging. You're looking at 50 TV sets and you have to do a talk show and keep everybody up to date on what the score is for the baseball games. They've done away with that since then because it's just a stupid thing that I'm in the middle of a conversation that it's like, oh, there's a base hit to left field and the Twins lead the Royals 3-2. And then it's, you go back to having a conversation. It was maddening because there's 10 games going on and I got to update every game and I got a producer in my ear going, the Twins just scored. The Padres just scored. And it's like, how am I supposed to see that? And I'm supposed to have a competent conversation with somebody. It's crazy. So anyway, So the point is that I've moved all over the country for radio. I enjoy the Bay Area really just to an incredible level. My son is in college, as everybody knows. I brought him up a million times. And he was on the show from New Orleans. He's 21. He's a junior, finished up his junior year at Arizona State. And then I have my wife and 2 stepchildren, and one is in 9th grade and one is in 7th grade. So we're pretty well set here. So if it was in the past, if it was 5 or 10 years ago, yeah, I probably would jump off. And I had opportunities after I left KMBR. People called me and said, "Hey, would you come here? Would you go there?" Like I said, I've run radio stations. I've been a talk show host in every day part. I've done all these different things. I've been a consultant. And I just didn't feel like moving out of the market was something that I wanted to do. I had talked to certain stations about, hey, if I could stay here, would you let me do something? And after a couple of conversations, those things, they said, nah, we want you to be local, which I totally get it for a local radio station. So yeah, I don't think I would. It would have to be just an amazing opportunity because I love the Bay. So I don't think so. And we've started at the Bay Area Sports Collective. We're new. We're growing that whole thing, and it's really, really cool. But working with Tolbert and working with Pauly and growing that thing, and I'm sure that we'll add more shows throughout time and really make that kind of a dominant force. But it takes a while to grow anything. I think that that's what we're going to do, and especially given the day and age of what we can do in these YouTube shows and the way that you can make a living doing it. I think that this is what I should be doing. I think it's really, really cool. And in the past, like I said, I probably would have jumped to another show or to another city or, and like I said, I've already done that and I don't really want to do that. So that might have been too long of an answer to your question, but since you asked me, that's the whole deal. As far as the thing almost getting killed in Scottsdale, and the only part of the country I haven't worked at in sports radio is the South. So I was working for the Oregon Ducks radio network. I was up on a big stage in Scottsdale. I didn't realize that there was going to be 2 pep rallies, one for Oregon and one for Auburn. And people from Auburn, they had been in a national championship game in football since 1957. So they were there was a parking garage across from this big plaza in Scottsdale where I was doing my show, and it was closed off. So it was closed off for Auburn fans first and then Oregon fans second, and they would clear out between. And so I'm on this big stage, I'm doing this national radio show, and I didn't realize it was the Auburn fans who was in there. So I thought it was Oregon fans. And so this guy had walked by me, and this was the year that Cam Newton won the Heisman Trophy. And remember, he had all those issues. And a guy handed me a shirt that was yellow, Oregon yellow, with green on it. And it said, Scam Newton Heisman Trophy. And I thought it was funny. So I put that shirt on, and I'm doing the show, and I'm talking trash about Auburn because I think it's Oregon fans that are in there. And it was actually Auburn fans. And so I'm on this elevated stage, and I see War Eagle flying around way up there, up on the stage ahead of me. And then there's Bo Jackson. And I realized that, this is all Auburn fans. And they're hanging off parking garages. I mean, they had flown so many people in because they hadn't been in this game so long. There was a lot of people who just wanted to be in Arizona, in Scottsdale for the national championship game. Again, this is like 2010. I forgot the final score, but like LaMichael James, as we know, ill-fated, was on Oregon, and they had all sorts of guys. And, Auburn was Cam Newton, all that kind of stuff. So anyway, long story short is I'm talking trash about them. And this guy comes up to me. There was this group of young guys, shirts off, is hot in Arizona, whatever, had gathered around the stage. And I was kind of laughing. I was oblivious. I'm doing my show, got the headphones on. I'm not really thinking about what's going on around me. And I go to a break, and this older guy, Southern gentleman, comes up to me and he says, "Boy, these boys right here are fixing to bum rush your stage, and you're going to be going down here in a minute if you don't change your tune." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He says, "You're talking trash about the Auburn Tigers, and these boys, they've been drinking a bit, and they're not too happy about it." And I was kind of like, whatever. Yeah. Blow the guy off. Go back on the stage. And I kind of toned it down a little bit as I'm watching these guys and I'm doing my show. And he's right. Like, these guys are getting pissed and they're boiling and they're drinking and everything else. And I'm talking trash about Cam Newton and about Auburn and about the SEC because I'm a West Coast guy. And all of a sudden these guys are thinking they're going to crash this stage. Well, I look around because they had security. ESPN had security up there on either side of me. And for some reason, these guys leave. And so I go, I tone it down a little bit, whatever. And there's more and more of a crowd coming around. And I go to the producer who was, running my board at the time to keep us on the air. And I said, "What happened to our security guys?" "Oh, they went to lunch." I'm like, "What do you mean they went to lunch? went to lunch. And so anyway, I go during the break and I tell these guys, I'm like, hey, it's cool, man. Like, we're just having some fun. You understand that? And they really didn't understand that. And they weren't real happy about it. But I said, yeah, it's just a bit. You understand? And they're like, no, we don't understand. So anyway, I quit doing that because I thought these guys are going to crash the stage. My overall point in saying that is because I hadn't worked in the South and I understood their passion for college football, but I certainly learned it on that day that they don't mess around. Like, this is religion. This is God and football, or football and God, whatever, probably in the football and God order, not so much in the God and football order. And so I toned it down because these guys were going to crash this stage, and there's all this equipment on this stage and everything, and this thing's going down. And like I said, it wasn't like I'm on this, 50-foot stage, but it was probably, I don't know, 10, 12 feet. I mean, it's a fairly high stage. And if these guys wreck this stage, I'm going down and it's probably not going to feel good. And we're talking broken bones, and yeah, that wouldn't have been a good thing. So I toned it down, and I learned on that day that you probably don't mess around with SEC football. That was kind of my whole thing. So there you go. Long answer to your personal question, which I'm more than glad to answer any personal questions. And thank you for the super. More supers. Let's see. For some reason this thing's starting to give me some more trouble. One more super. Don't leave the Bay. Thanks for coming on PMP last night. Yeah, that was awesome, man. Coming on with Paulie and with Tony. I've known those guys for so long, and you were in there for a while, Dom. It was so cool to just be able to connect. And as I told those guys last night, the only thing I miss about KNBR is the camaraderie that we would all have. And I would walk in there at about 9:59, and he and Murph were going to break. And as we said last night, they had thrown us in this studio that was probably half the size of our normal studio. And I had to kind of finagle my way around Murph and finagle my way around Mac. And Murph would zip out of there because that was the seat I would sit in. And so then I would clear his coffee and all these different things, and the music's running. And I would start talking to Paulie, and we would talk for like a minute. And then the guys in the studio would always be waving at me going, go, go, go. The music's running out, go. And I'm like, hey, yeah, hold on, man. I'm talking to Paulie. Because that was the only time I'd get a chance to talk to him. So, yeah, it was cool. I just missed the camaraderie. I don't miss anything about anything else, just that. And so it was really cool to be on with those guys. And I think we're going to be doing, and it's crazy to say this, but opening day is coming up really shortly. So we're going to be doing I know they're going to be doing a live thing. So I'm going to jump down there, and I know Tolbert is too. And if you're just jumping into the show today, obviously we love it if you would please continue to subscribe. And the community is growing, and we're over 4,000. And it's really, really cool. But John Lund Unleashed on YouTube and Bay Area Sports Collective on YouTube. So I was on with Tommy yesterday. Who's going to have Steve Young on today, or they're going to run the Steve Young interview today. So if you go to Bay Area Sports Collective, Tom's interview, I'm on now. I know that Paulie and Tony come on at 11. So make sure that you stay with us, and we'll be adding shows and all sorts of cool stuff. Plus, I know this for a fact, like during Giant season, I'm going to go down to the yard, get some interviews with guys. So we'll have everything Bay Area sports for you at Bay Area Sports Collective. And thank you, Dom. That was a lot of fun last night. Let's go to Skills. What's up, Skills? Oh, this is the best. All right. So if you're new to the show, part of the greatness of the show is our community that we've built. And Skills has these dreams, and it gives us the supers and tells us exactly what happened. So I don't know. I'm not a doctor. I would love it. Is there a doctor in the house? Like, I know, for example, I was texting with Jeff, and I need you to do this for me. John at johnlundradio.com is my email. And if you hit me up, if you have a certain area of expertise, and you might think that it's small or doesn't matter, but it does. Like, I always, every time I've had a radio show, I always wanted to make sure that I built a wall of experts who knew, who were versed in something. I don't even care what it is. You could be a woodworker. You could be a cow milker. I mean, I don't care. But so then Jeff told me he was a retired police officer for 28 years in Oakland. So I'm like, anytime we need some sort of a reference to something that's legal and police related, he's our guy, right? So I need to build that. So anyway, with Skills, it's like he has these dreams and they're just so wild. So anyway, you say, one time I tried to hide in a courthouse, remove my belt for the metal detectors, and my pants fell down. Sorry. I thought this was going to be a dream. So there, I set it up as a dream. So one time he tried to hide in a courthouse, remove my belt for metal detectors, my pants fell down. Not a dream, just sharing for no reason. What? I got about 20 questions here. So why were you hiding in the courthouse? Like, did you do something wrong and you were trying to hide there or something like that? Did you want to sleep there that night? Not a dream. amazing. But he does. His skills comes up with dreams that are just like, I don't even know. Like the reason I brought up that thing for an expert is we need some sort of a psychologist or some sort of a doctor who can explain exactly what this means, because I don't know. I'm not smart enough to know those kind of things, clearly. Oh, look at you, AJ Cruz 75 with the new T-Toss hat for the Texas Rangers. No caramel coffee today. Stay mocha, my friend. Yeah, so that's a story of we and my wife has not brought caramel coffee into the house, the devilish caramel coffee, for about, I don't know, she bought a pack of caramel coffee, and I tried it. It was awful. Just awful coffee. And then what happened was we were cleaning up all our coffee area in our house, and she poured it into like a jar, so I didn't know it was the caramel coffee. It was out of the bag. And then for like 2 straight days, I made caramel coffee. I was like, oh my God, it was terrible. By the way, I have a story as part of the Caboose Pistol Day on the T-Toss hat, which I'll tell you about in a minute, so don't let me forget about it. Thank you, AJ Cruz. That is awesome. By the way, it was just the AL West. They did a T-Toss hat, the A's ass hat, and the Angels anals hat. Like, what happened with every other hat was fine, except for the NL West. The only team that did the Astros survive it. What did they do with the Astros? I think they did something weird with that hat too. But the Angels were the anals, the Rangers were the T-Toss, and the A's were the ass. Like, somebody must have taken, like, whoever was that person who was supposed to be the editor for these hats was on vacation that week. This week we're doing the NL West hats. Like, whoever the backup guy was, yeah, I got fired. Seriously, did he not? I mean, he had to have gotten fired. Goodness, man. Harry says, I'm thrilled you're staying. My dad died recently, and your content helped me get through. You're like a buddy now. Bro, I can feel you. I can give you a little bit of an antidote. Not that it's going to help. But I found my parents lived in Arizona. I know you live in Arizona. Big fan. I found out, like, so Pop and I were doing noon to 3 on 95.7. And at about 11:45, my dad called me one time years ago. And my dad would never call me right before a show, right? He knew we were on at noon. It was 11:45 in the morning. So I answered and I go, is everything okay? Like, I didn't even say anything. I just said, is everything okay? And he said, I got to tell you, I got pancreatic cancer. It's stage 4. Not going to make it. Just call me after a show. And I'm like, what? And I went into our program director's office, cried for like 5 straight minutes. And I just said, I got to do a show. Like, I don't want to be, because it's sometimes when that happens, you just want to be focused. And then, I went home and I remember just bawling for days, because first thing out of my mouth was, we're going to beat this and this is going to be fine. And it doesn't matter. And we got this. And then he goes, no. He goes, it's way too late. Sorry. In fact, today is March 13th, right? It was on March 18th of, I think he died in 14. So this, it was like March. Yeah, it was March of 14. March 18th of 14, only because he said he had a weird feeling in his side on March 17th. They had a St. Patrick's Day party. And then the next morning he woke up and he's like, God, this feels weird. And then he went into the doctor later that day and they said, yeah, you got stage 4 pancreatic. That's it. And they gave him 90 days to live and he passed away in 84. So yeah, it's not great. And I'm not saying that to lessen anything that you're saying here, to play topper or anything like that. And I hope it doesn't come across like that. Only reason I'm saying is I feel you, man. It's tough. It is really, really hard. And I don't know how your dad passed, if it was sudden or if it had been a long illness or whatever the case may be. But I always just tell people that, because I went down there every single weekend. He lived in the Tucson area at the end of his life. And I went down there like every other weekend, just like, I got to see him. We were really, really close. And it sucks. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I mean, we've all lost parents, loved ones, people close to us. Cancer sucks. We know that. And there's just nothing else. For those who haven't experienced it before, the only thing I can say when you lose a loved one, a parent, anyone that, close in your family, is you never get over it. You just learn to live with it. And it's just kind of the things that you do. And what I try to do now is I try to laugh and smile and everything else. The thing I would advise you to do, especially if you have a sick parent or family member, take as much video as you can. Cause I have 1 million pictures of my dad, 1 million, but to hear, like, I have a little bit of video of him. And so every once in a while, if I hear it or if I watch it or anything like that, that brings it back. Pictures are great, but it's video. It's like I want to hear him and I want to see him, and those kind of things, they really help. So sorry to hear it, bro. I really am. And like I said, we have a great community here, and we always have. And I don't mean to bring everybody down. That's not what I'm trying to do today. But we kind of pick each other up, and it's been really, really cool to have this community around, because like I know Skills, your daughter, and I don't want to bring up anything out of turn, but when we heard your daughter was having some issues, which I think she's over that, right? It's like, bro, it's we all pull together. So it's a really cool community that we've formed here, and people are really cool. And so if I've in any kind of tiny way helped you through it, that's great. I know that somebody had emailed me about their divorce they're going through, and that we'd helped in that way. And it's like, I can't tell you what that means, because look, man, I just get up every single day and try to have fun and be real and and provide entertainment and everything like that. And then when somebody says something like, hey, you're helping me through this, that, or the other, it's great, because that's all I'm trying to do is entertain people. I mean, I'm not trying to get too deep here. I'm trying to inform a little bit, but we're mainly trying to entertain people, right? I mean, that's just what we try to do. So yeah, exactly. The fry man, baby. The fry man. I mean, that's just how it is. But we all go through it, and I'm not unique in that way. Everybody's had these things happen, and it sucks. I mean, there's no two ways to put it. I can't, there's no way to spin stuff like that. So anyway, hey, thanks for sharing. We really appreciate it. Let's see. What else do we have today? Yeah, was that what it was? The Houston thing? Yeah, I mean, whoever did the NL West hats, my God, man. I mean, seriously. In fact, I think I have, actually, I do think, let's see, I know I have that as part of the Sweet Clean Family Friendly Caboose Bills. I'm jumping ahead to the caboose real quick. I'm going to go back to spring training. Don't let me forget about it. I'm going to go back to spring training in just a second, but we need to pick me up here. Look at this. I mean, just people are amazing. Like, I would have never thought in a million years this would happen. So the T-Toss hat, which AJ, you brought this up, that's eBay. Like, they're going for $1,000. Like, people ran out and bought these hats, and now because they pulled them off the market, people are they're selling them for $1,000. Now, I don't know that people are buying them, but look at that. $1,000, $1,000, $1,000. Like, that's the T-Toss hat that they pulled off. So people ran out and got the hat, and now they're pulling it up on eBay. And like I said, I know that they're putting them out there. I don't know that they're selling them. And I saw the same thing with the Anals hat and the same thing with the ass hat of the A's, that people ran out, bought these hats, and now they're putting them up on eBay because Major League Baseball did away with them. They pulled them. And now people are selling them for like $1,000. I mean, look at that. Texas, T-Toss Rangers, New Era, Rare, 7.5, $9.99. Like, what? I'm not paying that. Like, it's funny, and it's a good, it's a funny bit story. It's a good Sweet Clean Family Friendly Caboose Postal story, but come on. Are people buying those? Like, I know they're up for sale. There's a huge difference between running out, putting them up for $1,000, and actually people buying the T-Toss, the Anals, the ass hat, the whatever, the NL West mess of a hat. I don't know if people are doing that. All right, let me hit a little bit of spring training. I mean, a little bit of spring training here. And again, you can talk about anything you want. If you want to get into Kuminga, which we've discussed, if you want to get into Mac Jones and what's going on with the Niners still in free agency to discuss, we can do that. Do remember, at any point, if you go to John Lund Unleashed on YouTube, you can go back at any point and watch the show. And right after the show, we hit the magical button and we put the chapters. So if you go to John Lund Unleashed on YouTube and you want to watch a specific part of the show, we put it on the chapters, and all I have to do is click on it. And therefore, it makes it really easy, because you're like, I don't want to talk about the T-Toss hat. I don't want to talk about, depressing things. Okay, totally cool. So then we can move ahead to that. All right, so here's what's going on as far as spring training is concerned. And before I put this up on the board, I preface everything with spring training. I wrote this at johnlundunleashed.com right when spring training started, that you take everything kind of with, okay, get your work in. Don't leave all your hits in Arizona. I don't care if you're hitting 500, because everything resets. I don't care if you got a great record. Everything resets. In that piece that I wrote a few weeks ago, I gave you 2024, like Logan Webb goes for a 10.97 ERA and was like 0-3 last spring. He was just fine. Thank you very much in the regular season. Guys who had great springs had terrible years. Guys who had great springs had great years. Guys who had great years. Like, it runs the gamut. Spring training means nothing outside of the Yankees lost Garrett Cole. So you lose a Garrett Cole to TJ surgery or something like that, that's totally different. You have an injury, like you want a guy to just be just fine. Just get your work in, get to the dugout. Get your work in, get to the dugout. I like what Verlander has done. He's throwing 96, 97. That means something. But as long as he doesn't get hurt, and as long as Luis Matos doesn't leave all his hits in Arizona, which guys have done, it really doesn't do anything for me. But there's a buzz around the Giants right now for this very reason. They are 13-3 right there, leading the Cactus League. There are the Dodgers. There are the Royals. I'm not concerned if I'm a Padres fan that I'm 6-13 or 5-13 at the bottom of that whole thing. I'm not worried about it. So there you go. A's are 10-9. So whatever. But some people are like, whoa, look at the Giants. They're 13-3. All right, we'll see. But so there's one reason they're optimistic. And then this is the main thing. And I know there's some pitching and everything else, but I don't know. It just seems like this has gone on forever and ever and ever, but it hasn't. But there's Luis Matos at the top, right? Luis Matos, a home run, 9 RBIs, hitting 359, OPS 846, nice numbers. And everyone's like, oh, Matos, this is his year. We'll see. Encarnacion has been another guy that a lot of people have talked about, a home run, 13 RBIs, playing really well. Casey Schmidt, could this be Casey's year finally? Casey Schmidt's playing really well. So anyway, everybody looks at these numbers. They look at the standings of the Giants. They look at the numbers of some of these guys. Matos is a guy that is incredibly intriguing to all Giants fans. Encarnacion, I've seen a million of his highlights this year. Big dude, no question about it. But to me, these things mean nothing. I saw Luis. The thing is, we should have learned our lesson last year when Matos, was that last year that Matos had the incredible week and was player of the week, and then like 10 days later was in the minors? He's an incredibly streaky player. I would love for him to be the regular right fielder because I like Mike Yastrzemski, but I think Mike Yastrzemski is a fourth outfielder. If Matos was on fire, I'm not anti-Matos. Great. Put Luis Matos in right field. Love it. And Jung-Hoo Lee has looked really good. I mean, he's got a good batting average. You know, he was everybody, like I said, there were so many people who were like, he's great. It's like he had a 641 OPS and he hit 262 last year. He by no means is in the bank, but he's having a good spring. I like it. It's encouraging, but it means nothing. They hit the reset button. It's like you play a video game and your dog walks by and he unplugs it, walks right by and knocks it out. You're like, oh, and you're almost done with a video game. Got to start over. That's spring training. These stats don't count. Nothing carries over. Guys get hot during a season and cold. So we wouldn't, let's say it was the middle of the season and somebody either got really hot or really cold. That doesn't identify their entire season. I mean, Matos has 39 at bats. Look at that. 39 at bats. Encarnacion has 37 at bats. Like we wouldn't gauge their season based on those 37 or 39 at bats. But for some reason in Arizona, we're like 39 at bats are like 400 at bats, like 10 times that amount. Like, no, it's not true. And I don't know who Matos was up against. I don't know who, even if it was a named pitcher, I don't know what that pitcher was working on. I have no idea. So it means very little to nothing to me of these spring training stats. And then I look at the pitching numbers. Let me move to these. And same kind of a thing here. I saw Verlander. That's the main thing is I saw Verlander throwing like 96, 97 miles an hour. Now, whatever the other numbers look like, I don't care. And like I said, Logan Webb had a 10.97 ERA last spring. 10.97. I think his regular season was like 3.47 ERA, went over 200 innings, did what Logan Webb does. So my annual warning, I guess I got to do it again. It doesn't matter. The numbers don't matter. The stats don't matter. The standings don't matter. Don't get hurt. Get your hacks in. It's getting near the end of spring training. Make sure that there's no arm injury. Like yesterday, as I was watching, or day before, as I was watching Verlander, the only thing I could think of in my mind is, okay, I can see that you're throwing it up there 96, 97. Awesome. I saw he struck out a couple of A's batters with a slider in the dirt. Nasty. Look good. I like it. Now get off the mound. Like, I get it. Like, you don't have to work anymore. Like, I don't want to see Verlander again. I don't want any of these pitchers. I don't want to see Logan Webb again. Because the Yankees are sitting there going, damn, we just lost Garrett Cole, our number one starter. Now they got Max Fried and some other guys, but it's like their season has been drastically changed already, and we're not out of spring. Their number one starter down. Like if Logan Webb goes down the rest of spring, oh, we love these guys. Look at their record. Oh, my God. And then Logan Webb gets hurt. Like that's a failed spring. Right now, spring's good. Everything's looking good. Guys aren't getting hurt. Guys are getting their work in. certain players look good. I wouldn't care if certain players aren't hitting yet. I would hope that all the guys who are hitting don't leave all the hits in Arizona, and I just don't want to hear about any kind of injuries, strains, whatever. And nothing like that. No ankles, no strains, no back injuries, no my back hurts, no locked up back, no strained this or that. Like, that's at this point of spring, that's all I care about. They could lose every game. Everybody could strike out every time the rest of spring. I do not care. So that's how I look at it. But I'm not trying to be down on the whole thing. I think it's cool. You'd rather win than not. You'd rather have Matos hit than not. But until I see Luis Matos, not over a week, which we saw, and he won Player of the Week honors. We've seen how hot he was. What did he get? Like 11 RBIs that week? I think it was like, 2-3 home runs and 11 RBIs? He was ridiculous. Like, every time he came up, it was an RBI or two. It was this guy. And then we were like, oh, he's awesome. And then like a week later, he couldn't even hit. And so then we had to go on the air and we're like, look, the guy's got to go down. And all these people come up, did you see that week he had? And I'm like, yeah. He hasn't had a hit since then. It was like 10 days later. So I still don't know if Luis Matos is a 4A player or can really play. I don't have any idea because spring really doesn't tell me that. And I'm not watching it closely enough to know if he's going up against a guy that's going to be an A-ball or a guy who's going to be an all-star, or even if that guy was an all-star, if that guy was working on something. Like, we've had this conversation, you and I, before. So I don't know. But it would be nice. I mean, I would love it if Luis Matos was real, and I'm not anti-Luis. Like, some people are like, you don't like Matos. I'm like, how would I not like Luis Matos? Like, it doesn't make any difference to me. I like the guy. He's fine. But I haven't seen him consistently be a great player. So in spring, I'm not going to over 39 at-bats when I saw him win Player of the Week honors one time and then fall flat on his face after that. I'm not going to sit there and go, well, clearly he's great after 39 at-bats. That's all. So I like it. I hope he does well. But that's all I'm saying about spring training. What else do we got today? What else? Oh, do remember, I want to hit you with this really quickly on the QR code. That is Bay Area Sports Collective right there. So if you click on that, you don't even have to leave the show and you can subscribe. And that means, what time do we have right now? So it's 12 after 10 Pacific time right now. In about 48 minutes, Paulie and Creative Tony will jump on at 11 o'clock on the Bay Area Sports Collective right here on YouTube. And so you want to make sure you're subscribed for that. And then when Tolbert releases that video of Steve Young and he in the backyard, in the jungle, the mighty jungle. That was bad. In the jungle of Steve Young's backyard, they will release that today and you will be able to see it. This is what it looks like if you weren't with us at the beginning of the show and why I just sang so poorly. Oh, right there. That's Steve and Tommy in the backyard on the Tom Tolbert Show, which you can watch on the Bay Area Sports Collective on YouTube. And they're going to release that at some point today, I'm told. And you want to have your alerts on and you want to be subscribed to the Bay Area Sports Collective so you can hear what Steve has to say. And I'll say this exactly like I said at the beginning of the show. Steve was the one who told us 2 weeks ago, and I don't know who was listening on the Rich Eisen Show, this is what's going to happen with the Niners. They're not overspending. They're pulling back. It's going to be different. Like he said it exactly like it happened on the Rich Eisen Show a couple of weeks ago. We played it for you. So it's not like we didn't know if you listen to Steve. So I'm sure he's got more insight with Tommy. So make sure that you are subscribed to Bay Area Sports Collective. Before we get out of here, and we've just hit the 2-hour mark, and I appreciate you hanging out as always. Let me play this. I know this is, so we already kind of did a Caboose Pistol story with the T-Toss and the hats and all that kind of stuff. But I don't know if you heard about this story. So we played this. I don't even know how long ago this was, but we played this as part of a Caboose Pistol months ago. And it was the story of Mark Gastineau, who confronted Brett Favre at a card show, at a card signing or whatever. And it was in New York. And they did the documentary. You probably saw it. It's a really good one. The New York Sack Exchange, which talked about the New York Jets and Joe Flacco and Mark Gastineau and Marty Lyons and that whole group. And so they did the documentary. And in the documentary, they filmed Mark Gastineau confronting Brett Favre. And if you remember, Gastineau had the sack record, but Brett Favre fell down, remember? And here comes Michael Strahan, and he falls down, and Strahan gets the sack record, and Mark Gastineau gets knocked out of the record books, a former defensive end for the New York Jets. And so then in this documentary by ESPN, they show Gastineau confronting Brett Favre, and now Gastineau is suing ESPN for $25 million, which I don't understand because you did this. So if you did this and you did it in public, why are you suing? Like this is not, they didn't coerce you into do it. They didn't force you to do it. He just seems mentally unstable. And because obviously of the negative backlash that he's gotten from this, he's actually suing ESPN. So if you don't know what this is all about, this was the incident or event in which Gastineau and why he's suing ESPN for $25 million on the documentary New York Sack Exchange, and this awkward exchange with Brett Favre because Favre fell down for Strahan and it got Strahan the sack record and knocked Gastineau out of the record books.
Long time ago, at least I saw you.
Right.
How you doing?
When you fell down for him. I'm going to get my sack back. I'm going to get my sack back, dude.
You probably would hurt me.
Well, I don't care. You hurt me. You hurt me. You hear me?
Yeah, I hear you.
You really hurt me. You hurt me, Brett.
We got to get back to this, Brett. I'm sorry.
the guy there's like, we gotta get back to this, Brett. Like, let's go. Like, seriously, he's mentally unstable. So I don't know why he's suing. He's suing for defamation, apparently, but it's like, dude, you did that in public. Like, you confronted Brett Favre in a really weird way. And like, Favre's trying to have some fun with it. Like, Favre's like, yeah, man, sorry. Like, I got to get my sack back. He's like, you probably hurt me, dude. Like, no. And he's like, no, dude, I got to get it back. Like, it's like, what? Because that's his only claim to fame anymore, right? It's like, I had the sack record. Dude, records get broken. Like, whatever. Whether Favre did that or not, I mean, that wasn't his fault. You should have got one more when you're in the Jets. I don't know. But his only claim to fame was, I was the all-time single-season sack leader. And he lost that. And I don't know what's going on. He got hit in the head way too many times. But it's like, I don't know how the legal system works in these kind of a situation. But I'm just going, hey, he did that publicly. He didn't get coerced into doing it. He was nutty, and they played it back. Like, what has he got to sue over? That was you, dude. They didn't make you do it. I mean, if I was Brett Favre in that whole situation, I'd be looking around like, I mean, the one dude finally did save him at the end. Like, hey, we got to get back, Brett. I was like, where's my, like I said, I didn't get security that one time when I thought I was going to get killed by Auburn fans. Like, where's the security, bro? You can't let this guy walk up on me like that. It's, ooh, that's nutty. That is nutty, bro. Man. I'm watching that going, this dude is like, no, I need my sack back, bro. It's like, ooh, dude. You got hit a lot. You got way too many times in the head for that one. Anyway, there's that. Anything else that I have today? We already did the T-Toss stuff. We went into spring training. Let me go over the chalkboard again. Episode 87, JK back. Talked about that. He'll return tonight against Sacramento in a very big game. And I'm sitting there looking at the standings, looking ahead. Meanwhile, Kings aren't too far behind. Minnesota's not too far behind, so they got to keep winning. How he fits, I told you, he's got to be mature in this whole situation. The wrong side of the bracket, and it's getting a little better. Curry talks, believes they can win the championship. The Mac attack. Mac Jones is here. Is that going to provide any kind of competition or any kind of leverage for the Niners? No, but it's an interesting story because Kyle Shanahan apparently wanted him in the 2021 draft, which I showed you. And then I went into a rabbit hole about the 2021 draft and all the guys they could have had instead of Aaron Banks. Oh, depressing. The 49ers missed out. Dalvin Tomlinson was a guy that was on the market, would have really liked him, but then Arizona overpaid for him. Rodgers stopped. That's all I'm going to say there because that's the last time he's going to be on the board. What does spring training mean? I showed you the standings and the stats. I still don't believe it, that it means a ton. Tolbert and Steve, I showed you the back yard of one Steve Young in the jungle. We will release that at Bay Area Sports Collective at some point today. So make sure that you have your alerts on at Bay Area Sports Collective for that. Random things. We did some because, for example, there was a super in there and I told my life story, my radio life story in there. So I made sure I did that. So we did some randoms today, not huge randoms today, but we normally do more. Caboose Pistol, we did the hats that are going for $1,000 and that weird Mark Gastineau thing at the end there. Is there anything else I'm missing? Has anything happened? I haven't looked at Twitter Sox X in a while. Is Cooper Kupp signed anywhere? Anything like that? Am I missing anything? Let me see here. Let me make sure I've got everything. Anyway, no, I don't think so. Okay. Just want to make sure that we didn't miss anything. Yeah, seriously, man. John Holmes, Mark Gastineau has serious issues. Yeah, isn't that was creepy, man. Like somebody comes up on me like that, I'm like, security, like quickly, security, quickly. God, that is like, whoa, bro. Like that is just nuts. Let's see. Tolbert should have worn a Speedo. That would have been a great idea. They got into the whole. By the way, if you're versed in this, they got into the whole Halloween light thing because Steve is so anti-Halloween light. But Steve, because of those trees he has in the backyard, has to keep his Christmas lights up 12 months a year, but they just turn them off because it's so hard to get up into that tree. But anyway, it's crazy. So anyway, Nate, it is okay that you are late today. It is not a problem whatsoever. If you ever missed the show live, you don't have to see the show live. You can go back to YouTube, go to John Lund Unleashed or Bay Area Sports Collective, and you can watch the show in its full. And what I do in both of those places is I put the chapters up. So right after the show, probably 10 minutes, I download the show, then I put the chapters out, and you can watch whatever you want in whatever order that you want, depending on what is interesting to you. So we did a lot of Niners stuff with Mac Jones, especially. We did a lot on the Warriors and Jonathan Kuminga coming back. We did a little bit on spring training. We did a little bit on the stuff at the end with Mark Gastineau and the Titas hat, and they're going for $1,000. So we did a little bit. So that's all. Anything else going on today? I think that's it. No signings. I didn't miss any signings there. I didn't miss a Cooper Kupp. I thought Cooper Kupp might be signed by this point of the show, but apparently not. Let me double check. Let's see. Juice, what is that? We're meeting with okay, because we already had Juice meeting with the Steelers. We had that. Raheem Morris to the Raiders. We had talked about Raheem maybe to the 49ers, but Raheem Morris goes to Vegas. Raheem, that's a good signing. They need a running back in Vegas. I mean, I bet they draft one too, but that's what I'm talking about as far as free agency is concerned. You don't want to walk into free agency being completely desperate. And the Raiders had no running game last year. So you thought to yourself, if you're the Raiders, like, damn, I got to get myself, running back. And now, I don't know, maybe they'll take the kid out of Boise State, but they don't have to. So that's kind of, Ashton Genty. Maybe they would, like, oh, they got to take Genty. Cooper Kupp got hurt. That's something. And what else? I guess that's it. All right. I don't see anything else as far as signings are concerned. I just wanted to double check. Merton Hanks' birthday is today. Merton Hanks, when I was working for the 49ers, was a post-game host with me, and he would be 3 hours ahead, and it was absolutely crazy. He would be like 3 hours ahead of. Oh, here we go. The sense around the league, Cooper Kupp doesn't plan on having a long, drawn-out process, prefers to make a decision, draw an interest from at least 5 teams, done sooner rather than later. That gives me nothing. Man. I want to know where he's signing. Could we do that? Could we speed that process up before we get off the air here? All right. Here's what I will do. It's 10:23 Pacific time. So give yourself a little chance, grab yourself some coffee, breakfast, use the restroom, whatever you have to do. And then Paulie and Tony will jump in at 11 o'clock. There you go. 11 o'clock for those guys. So make sure that you hit that up. All right. 11 o'clock on the Bay Area Sports Collective for Tony and Paulie. And then look for that release for Tom Tolbert with Steve Young. That's it. Thanks for tuning in today for a Thursday edition of the show. We always have a great time on Friday. Thanks for the supers as well. Want to make sure that we thank our guys again for the supers today. John Holmes, you're the best. Dom, it is great to see you. Skills Report, AJ Cruz 75. Did I mention Harry Johnson? He did a couple today. So thanks for the supers today as well. Everybody have a tremendous Thursday. One more time, just want to make sure that you know. YouTube, John Lund Unleashed. YouTube, Bay Area Sports Collective. Make sure you're there. At John Lund Radio. You can watch us on X every single day and on Instagram. We're also on Twitch and Facebook as well. Everybody have a great day. And for all things Unleashed, just go to johnlundunleashed.com. Have an incredible Thursday.
Thanks for hanging out with John Lund Unleashed. We'll try to be better next time, though I wouldn't hold my breath. Please like and subscribe on the John Lund Unleashed Pod YouTube channel. Watch live shows weekdays at 8 a.m. on YouTube, Instagram, and X. And make sure to have your alerts on for shows throughout the day or night. All things Lund can be found at johnlundunleashed.com. johnlundunleashed.com.
Goodbye!